Yeah, you can do it right, Michelle.
Would you like me to start?
Sure.
Anything makes it faster.
You get out of the way.
Okay.
Come on.
Ready?
Ready.
Okay, we're gonna start the meeting for the select board meeting for Tuesday, May 28th at 7:00. Review agenda for additions, removal, and adjustments of any items. Val? Do you have any
None that
changes?
I'm aware of, other than not all of the minutes, sorry, the February minutes are not quite ready yet.
Public forum. This is an opportunity for citizens to briefly share comments and concerns to the board that is not already on the agenda in less than 5 minutes. Do you have anything you'd like to share? Boy, light meeting tonight.
Screaming right through it. We'll be done before he gets here.
We got select board roundtable.
No,
No.
Department head, sorry, department head roundtable.
That is
I was jumping, I was ready to go home.
That's really a quick meeting.
Moving.
Joe,
All right.
why don't you go first?
I'm laughing too hard to find the unmute button. I was like, that was the best meeting ever. Good job. Yes, I'll just catch you guys up on some of the stuff that's on the agenda for the next couple weeks. So obviously we've got the public meeting preparation meeting coming up next Monday night. I've been having a couple meetings with Justin and soon to be with Justin and Valerie to figure out a little bit more about capital reserve and whatnot in the accounting system to better understand the actual position of the water company. And I can't expand more on it because I need a little more fact before I expand more on that. We are having Clark-Wright Septic come and pump out cell 1, which is requested to be done in the current annual inspection report, and we are fixing the effluent structure to the septic tanks, which is rotted out and super yucky and has been asked to be repaired. So that's actually getting done tomorrow in concert with emptying the septic tank, so that when the septic tank's emptied, it stops the flow through the structure so that we can actually fix it.
Jill, did you say routed out?
It's rotted out.
Oh, rotted. I thought you were saying like.
It's rod, so like it's
like Roto-Rooter.
It's gross. It's really gross. So basically, the structure, the inside of the structure is lined with bricks and mortar, and the bricks and mortar are rotting because the sulfur gas that's in there, the hydrogen sulfide, it's rotting everything out. So it just kind of looks like crumbly, non-structured, you know, very bad looking structure. So tomorrow's going to be super fun and gross.
Looks like what goes through it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it actually looks grosser than that. So
You want to come down and help, Beaker?
yeah, so we're starting the day getting that septic tank emptied out, the left side cell 1. That should give us almost 2 days of no flow through the effluent box, which will be great. And we're just gonna clean that structure once there's no flow through it, and then start tearing out all the yucky stuff and putting in the new stuff. Other projects to try to complete before the end of June are going to include a pretty serious, as far as the sound of the water leak and the size of the water leak, potentially the amount of water coming out based on the leak detection that had been done. It's South Street, and it's right in the center of the road, and it's between the 2 sets of apartment housing. So we've had some pretty good conversations with Eric about noticing and basically shutting through traffic down on the road. The area where vehicles will not be able to pass through is not going to be large, but we're going to basically close to through traffic at the top of South Street and at the intersection of Hewitt and at the intersection of Pump House, which there's, you know, one whole house there, but still just to let people know ahead of time about the road closure, about the water interruption that'll occur that day, and just that will, you know, people will need to kind of go back the direction they came in to the point where the road will be closed for that, you know, 15 or so foot segment where we have to put a hole in the middle of the road.
So in my report, I commented that you were originally planning to do that tomorrow, but now it's pushed off till later in June, so that we have that time to give people adequate notice.
Yeah. It feels rushed to try to do it on Thursday, plus I'm not sure just how long it's gonna take to get that structure re-bricked. I don't know how much of a pain it's gonna be, because I've never re-bricked that exact type of structure. You know, our team hasn't done that exact rebuild yet. We've done a lot of manhole rehabs, but it's not specifically a manhole, it's a flow-through structure. So pretty similar, just more brick. So
There's the water line, is that above the new section that was put in when the bridge was changed?
Yes.
Gotcha.
So this is below the bridge.
No, it's this
This side of the
it's
bridge?
right out here.
It's
Okay.
just, where the water leak repair is going to be is just before the Lathrop Mill.
Oh, it's the other side.
The other end.
yeah,
Oh,
yep.
so it's on the lower, below the
Yeah.
bridge, okay.
Right,
Yep.
yeah.
So I did call and speak with the owners of Lathrop Mill to just make sure that there was no kind of like, you know, big like push around their schedule of any particular days to avoid. And they said, nope, not at all, get her done. Let them know we'd be flushing the hydrant that's down in their yard, because that's the end of the line on that side. And that they would not have water for the period of time during the repair itself. And again, they didn't have an issue with that. I still need to just have the formal conversation with the fire chief so that he understands that the closest hydrant would be on Lover's Lane over by, what is that called?
Woodland Apartments.
By Woodland Apartments, as if he needed to fill a truck and wasn't already full, or needed to refill a truck if anything were to happen and he couldn't come down South Street from the other direction. So just kind of like thinking about all the things that might be. So there's that project. And then there's a leak at the intersection of Taylor and Pleasant. The sounding equipment that gave us the leak report is saying that it's at the valve, but our sounding equipment is saying it may be possibly,
Service line somewhere close to it.
yeah. So we'll probably start with a little bit of exploration near the most local service line first before we cut a hole in the road. Because that seems less obtrusive, and also if it's just a service line that's echoing off of the main and it's not really at the valve, we'd like to not cut the road if we don't have to. So that's another priority to get done before the end of the month. And there are, I don't know, a whole handful, maybe even 2 handfuls of just curb boxes where the tops are broken or the box is no longer functioning properly. So like each one just takes a couple hours, but we'll just try to work away different curb boxes that need to be repaired. Is there anything else I'm forgetting?
As far as things to do in town.
Yeah, that we want to try to do before the end of June to try to work
Got
in the.
The faucet for the horse ring.
Yes.
Whatever. I was gonna put a frost free in there unless anybody else wants just a regular faucet. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, so that's at the junction of Pleasant and West Pleasant and Liberty Street on the side of where the horse ring is. The thing that's been there is basically like a water fountain thing.
It's a regular faucet type top that opens and closes spring loaded. It can drip and do whatever the whole time. I was thinking a frost free would be adequate. It would open and close like it should. It wouldn't have fine metering flow, but it's up to you guys, the water board, what you want to do with that.
Yeah, we'd also like to move it away from the sidewalk, like towards the horse ring a little bit more so that it can get hit with the road plow or the sidewalk plow, which has happened like 10 times.
That's what I was gonna ask, is it broken again?
Yes, very, very broken, not functioning at all, actually. So I see Peter pensive, so I'm up for feedback because we want to do something long-term for that.
And Jill did mention that this is all within the current fiscal year budget.
Yeah.
I would like
well
to,
within.
considering the highway department has hit it 2 or 3 times plowing the sidewalks, I'd like you to reach out with them and use their excavator and their time.
I will let Eric know that. I did ask him if he wanted to help with
She
South
did
Street.
already, actually, but Eric declined.
Your
Okay.
decline?
Okay.
They have declined assisting with the projects in June, but
Says he's very busy. He's got stuff to do, so.
I mean, I'm not his boss. I'm just, in essence, his coworker. So I mean, it's whatever you guys want to work through. Again, we're gonna try to just work through making sure the communication for South Street, because it's a shutdown of the roads, is pretty extensive, so that there's not a lot of kickback on that.
So a date has not been set yet for that.
No, I want to kind of watch the weather for another day or two. Dig Safe's completely cleared on all 3 locations that we've just discussed, so that's great. It's just looking for non-heavy rain days to get the work scheduled and hammer it out.
Okay, alrighty,
Thank you.
thank you. Oh, anybody else on the board or, no?
Not there.
Brett, you wanna give us your?
No significant updates for the select board. However, in 2 weeks, I'll reach out to Valerie if possible. I have a couple agenda items. One, I'm gonna come forward with a couple of quotes for the pickup truck we've been discussing. And 2, I feel it's time to provide some information to the select board on the new OSHA rule that if passed, could have a significant impact on the fire service in general. And there's financial and time implications, very significant.
It could potentially double your budget.
So, but you folks need to have just awareness of this proposed rule, its tentative timeline. Obviously there's many activists out there trying to at least stall it for now, so there can be more conversations and discuss perhaps a rollout opposed to just throwing it all at us at one time. But that's kind of out of my hands. That's big lawyers and stuff.
They've asked the fire service for input. Do you think it would be beneficial for the town to have input? Because they're the ones that are gonna
go on the National Volunteer Fire Council's website. I can certainly point Valerie there, and then she can steer you guys. She's my liaison with you guys. Yeah. So, I'm happy to do that if you think it's beneficial. They are asking for individuals from the fire service to comment, not just a group to say, hey, we don't like this, because that's not accomplish anything. They're looking for constructive feedback, how it will potentially impact us, our bottom line. And just really, it's significant, and you all should just have some awareness of this. So I think it's finally time I can share. It'll be a very brief presentation. Actually, it really won't be mine. It'll be one that I sat in on 2 weeks ago. It was a great, very short PowerPoint, and just really highlights at a very high level what the proposed rule changes are. So, and I certainly won't have all the answers if you ask questions, but I certainly can get them for you. But again, I just think you guys need to be in the loop now.
Okay. Alrighty,
Thank you.
thanks. Anyone else on? Is Bruce you on or Mary?
No, it
Don't
doesn't
see
seem
him.
like it.
All right, and Eric is not on.
No,
So-
although I do, thanks for reminding me, I did have an update with him over the phone that I can share. Some of the items are that they're replacing the shims and the bushings on the grader, and they'll be
Yeah,
doing some
some
more
of that.
grading this week. There is a beaver that is building or has built a dam in the culvert at the top of Mountain Street by the elementary school.
Oh, great.
And it's a little thing, and they noticed it, I think, a little over a week ago, and they've been working on different methods to try to persuade it to leave. It has not yet. So they set out a have a heart trap this morning. Don't know the results of that yet. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
They're going to be starting roadside mowing soon. They're going to be doing the crosswalk painting over the next couple of weeks. He is planning on being out of on vacation the week of June 17th and the 24th.
Good,
And-
this time. Good.
And that he's getting quotes for the additional Pine Street drainage that we talked about at the previous meeting. And he's ordered the extra equipment, and so that's that.
Did he say when the streets might be swept?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that.
August, end of
Didn't
August.
say that.
No, that's the grinding, right? No, the street, did the street sweeper
I think,
Oh.
come in yet for the bucket?
I think that's around the time of the crosswalk painting,
Okay.
or just before.
Can I ask a question about the beaver on Mountain Street?
Yeah.
You mentioned have a heart.
Yeah.
Everhart trap.
Yeah,
Have we looked into, if you're putting it in a trap, we're obviously considering relocating it.
Mhm.
Have we looked into the legal aspect of that yet?
I did ask about that.
I only asked because a couple weeks ago, we were at the fire station, somebody called about skunks
I
that
asked
they
if,
caught in an Everhart trap and wanted to know if we could help out.
right. I asked.
No.
There's certain things we don't do.
That's right.
I know that there are certain types of animals that cannot be relocated. It's against wildlife rules, and I asked Eric
I
about
guess I
that.
wrote quite a few of them, right? I
And-
probably located 10, 12 still.
And his
lived on
answer at
Church
that
Street.
time was he didn't think so,
Fairfield Street.
that beavers are restricted in that way. And I think they may have some locations in mind where it might go, if they successfully apprehend it.
Okay. All right. Regular business then, I guess we are. Bristol Fire Department Fire Chief Rutland Rose and firefighter candidate Eric McDonald.
No,
Tyler
Tyler
Hebert.
Hebert.
Whoops, that's a
Well,
typo.
we did Eric back in February.
Okay, I didn't think he looked like Eric, but
I sent out updated
You did.
agendas a couple of different times, so, because I
Right.
caught that.
Tyler Hebert.
I've been out of the
Yeah, so-
office since about 1:30.
Yeah, solid.
Tyler.
You want the updated one?
Sure, thank you.
Maybe Tyler, can you sit right here? Nice short hair. Floor mine?
Yep.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I know Peter and Joel have had an opportunity to, well, they've known Tyler for a number of years, as Tyler was a cadet with the Bristol Fire Department 9-10 years ago now.
At the age of 15,
Yeah, and you're now,
It's been-
well, I can't
it's
answer
been
that.
almost 12 years now.
Figure it out, right?
That's right. So, but anyway, yeah, Tyler, he's been, he lives in Bristol. He has been serving with another fire department. He actually just a week ago, 2 weeks ago now, I guess, completed his requirements for his firefighter 1 certification, his national certification, which is exciting. It's always great when you can bring someone on board that already has the training. But Tyler was just expressing, you know, his desire. He lives in Bristol and wants to give to the department and to the community, and he has some experience with us. It's been a number of years, but we've done the interview. Valerie and the assistant fire chief and myself were a part of that. I know Ian, you can make it that day. We've done the background checks, reference checks, and everything is checked out. So Tyler is here before you all this evening. One, if you want to ask him any questions, but otherwise his appointment.
I want to know how he managed to get all those records expunged.
I was gonna ask, how do you, because I saw you work in New Hampshire, or you were working in New Hampshire, is that what I saw? Or New
The
Haven?
employer I currently work for is out of New
New Hampshire,
Hampshire.
but
It's
you
their
work
main
in-
shop. They have another shop in Ferrisburg.
Okay, so you work in Vermont, I was like, boy, you must travel far.
I do not get paid enough to do that.
Okay.
And Tyler, he and his wife, they bought a house on
Sunwood Lane.
Sunwood Lane and are expecting their first child.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
My neighbor down there.
Yeah.
And she's also a firefighter.
Correct. She also just completed firefighter 1.
Oh my God.
You're not recruiting her?
That's not my job. No.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, I'll make the motion to accept Tyler into the ranks of the Bristol Fire Department.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments and questions for Tyler or Brett? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Staying? Okay, welcome aboard. And now we'll do the
All
traditional.
right, yeah. So, Jessica, I know you're new to this, I think. So this is,
Sacred.
it's been rebound, but this is the original signature book of everyone who's ever been a member of the Bristol Fire Department dating back to 1894. So Tyler, I already pulled the page out because I like to be efficient like that. Will be the 337th individual who has served the Bristol Fire Department. So that one right there.
Yeah.
We still haven't gotten Eric's signature. Remember, he did his appointment virtually,
Mhm.
so we had to skip over a
Thank
line.
you, Tyler. Welcome aboard.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you.
Well, thank you all very much.
Speaker, where are you and I?
We are a very healthy
237, somewhere around there?
34-person roster today. with Tyler's appointment, so it's a really good feeling because others aren't as fortunate as we are in Bristol.
So
So
we are very fortunate.
Yeah. Mhm.
What's the number you want to be at, or you like to be at, Brett?
at one time when the fire department had bylaws, that it was 32 was the last cap. And then I think how we left it in the policies you all adopted, it's up to ultimately up to the discretion of the board, because believe it or not, it costs money to have a volunteer, you know, all the things that go along with it, from outfitting them to insuring them, et cetera, et cetera. So is there an ideal number? No, I know in my 29 years, this fire department has only dipped below 30 members one time, and that was for like a month. So
You used to have a waiting list,
we did.
years long.
It's been many years since there was a waiting list, but at the same time, it's just, I don't know how it works. It just, we lose one, we get one. It just, and of course, today, the way people move around, you know, it's not necessarily the person who grew up here, joined the fire department and stays for 40 years. It's people come and go constantly, and as you all know, you know, our biggest recruitment pool, you know, is a working class person, and it's very difficult to find housing in our community, and it's just reality right now. You know, hopefully that gets remedied someday, but you know, and so eventually these people have to make choices about, you know, I gotta move someplace else, you know, because I can't find a permanent home here.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of turnover. And, but that's really, in my opinion, the primary reason why. Just job changes, family changes, housing, all that. So, but thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Quick and painless.
Oh,
I don't know about the quick one again, but
All the pain's yet to
We'll go
come.
with it.
The pain's yet to come.
Okay. Consideration of formation of a Bristol Equity Committee and potential appointment of candidates may include deliberation in executive session. So if you want to go to executive session at the end of the meeting, you can make that motion. So what's your thoughts here?
Porter is online to give us an overview and kind of set the stage, kind of bring us up to speed on how we got to this point.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sorry I can't be there in person, everybody. Hello. Nice to see you. So yeah, just as sort of where we're coming from and where this could go. As a reminder, the creation of this committee is a result of the 2022-2023 Vermont Community Foundation Equitable and Inclusive Communities Grant that we got. So when we did that grant, which was offered by Vermont Community Foundation in collaboration with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns and the state of Vermont to help communities, you know, identify and remove barriers to building an inclusive, diverse, and dynamic state. We did 3 things with that grant that year. So the town hired consultant Tabitha Moore, and she did 5 trainings for staff, or she did 4, and we had 1 from what was then Women's Safe. And then she helped us review decision-making processes, and that resulted in that decision-making tool called Driving Equity, you might recall. And so, you know, we created that, and the result of the grant recommended that that be used by town committees and department heads and the select board. And then the last thing that it did was an assessment of community engagement and the existing conversation around issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the community. And so coming out of that grant, actually even before we even finished that work, the Vermont Community Foundation recognized Bristol for the work that had been done so far and invited us to apply for a second year of the grant. So when we wrapped up the grant as part of the grant report, which included a number of recommendations for the community, the Vermont Community Foundation funded us for a second round. So you guys applied for that second round, you probably recall, and they funded us. And nothing's actually happened yet, because one of the very first things on the list to do was to create a committee so we'd have more voices from the community, hopefully voices that aren't voices that we hear from all the time, and get some fresh perspectives to help make recommendations and actually do some of the work to support the select board and the town administrator. So Tabitha Moore, the consultant, would be available to support the the town and the committee moving forward, using some of those funds in this grant round. And I also will continue as a volunteer. So my involvement so far with the grant has all been volunteer. So Tabitha and I would be involved to support the committee in the first year, but neither of us would be on the committee. I wouldn't be a voting member because it's really important that the new committee members set their own mission, decide what they want to be their leadership structure and how they want to proceed. So while the grant report did propose tasks that the committee could do moving forward, and it also proposed tasks that the select board could take independently, that the town administrator could take independently, and things that the town could do more broadly to support staff. The equity committee's job would be initially to, look at that as part of deciding how they want to proceed and then make their own decisions. So they're not being given like, you must do this. They're just giving the opportunity to, help the town move forward. And all of this is done under the auspices of supporting the select board in putting actual work and actions behind that declaration of inclusion that the select board voted on in 2021. So that's kind of where we came from and where we are. And so I was really pleased to see that we did have a number of people step forward and especially some newer voices, people who we haven't seen on committees in the past. And so what's before the select board tonight is to consider those applications and to choose folks to be on this committee, and then to empower that committee to move forward under the auspices of what was recommended in the grant.
Porter, can you give me a better understanding of where we think we're going to get with this committee? I mean, what's the ultimate outcome for the town and the benefit to the town?
Well, the overall gist of doing diversity, equity, inclusion work for the town is to position our community to be competitive for the next 100 years. So as the demographics change pretty dramatically in the country and increasingly in Vermont, we want to make sure that if we're going to continue to be viable, that this is a place where people want to live, a place they want to send their kids to school, a place they want to start businesses, a place they want to come spend their money and shop and stay and visit. And so, you guys probably know my Bristol Trail Network motto is Bristol, Vermont, best period town period ever period. So I think this is the best place on the planet. And I know most of us probably on this call think that too. And so this is an exercise of looking at, what can we do to make sure that everybody who comes to or considers coming to Bristol to live, to spend money, to go to school, to patronize our stores, also feels really welcome and feels like this is a place where they could also be happy and thrive, so that, it continues to be the best town ever.
Okay. Any more questions? Jimmy, yeah.
As I said before, I don't believe that we have a major problem in this town. I think everybody's pretty nice about everything. And it seems that these programs are being dropped by major corporations, universities. I don't see what it could really benefit. You have a cure looking for a problem, and we don't have a problem as far as I'm concerned. Just my opinion.
Okay.
Something to think about. I think you would deliberate a little further.
That does raise a question for me, which is just, Porter, could you talk a little bit more about the practical things that the committee would be working on? Like, would they be looking over job ads to suggest different language? Would they be looking over our policies? Like exactly what would they be working on?
That the job descriptions and our policies is actually something that Tabitha was supporting Valerie in the first round of the grant. So we've already had some good input on that. I can give you a description of some of the things that came out of the last grant report that were recommended for the coming year. But I don't want to say that the committee should or has to do a particular thing, but just as an idea of things they might consider. Would that be helpful, Jessica?
Yes. Yeah, that would be.
So some of the things in that grant report for things that the equity committee might do are create sort of, as part of our signage, and all are welcome here banner in town, and all are welcome here signs that, you know, stores or homeowners could use. Support and promote minority-owned businesses. Create a safe forum to invite feedback from community members about issues or experiences with inequity or discrimination, and encourage suggestions for how to address that. And there's organizations in the state already who could provide guidance and support on this. So these aren't things we would have to make up on our own. But there's, so it talks about partnering with organizations who already do that. Begin the process of equity mapping. So an equity map is a tool that uses data to help leaders make informed decisions about investment and development opportunities and target the impact of proposed projects. Promote the availability of language support services. So municipal business and schools know about how to access it. This is a service that's already available in the state of Vermont. So if somebody were to walk in and start talking to the town clerk and, you know, some language and we don't even know what it is, there's language support services available for that, so that we don't have to be like, what do we do with this question? Collaborate with other agencies to create and promote restorative justice opportunities in Bristol. Encourage diverse voices on communities and boards. I know this is something that's been frustrating for the select board in the past, is that we have some just amazing heroes in town who do a lot of work. And, you know, we know they can get overwhelmed and overloaded. How do we find and invite new people to the table to bring more perspectives, but also to lighten the load for the many volunteers who are on all of our different conservation or all of our different commissions and committees? And actually, to that end, one of the things in the recommendation was that this committee originally be formed with 5 people, and that the committee make it one of their first tasks to look at how to help add voices and diversify perspectives on all of town boards, including their own, so that in subsequent years they could grow to perhaps 7 people, but they would do that by making sure that they're reaching voices that haven't been heard on boards before. There's just a couple more, but they could look into how to create a handout with information and resources for individuals to report community incidents of discrimination or harm, and explore the town's readiness to participate in one of 2 programs that are offered at the state level. One is called EPIC, which is through the League of Cities and Towns, and one is called IDEAL, which is through the state of Vermont. And both of those are ways for towns to pursue further work in this area, but with support. But Bristol is sort of Bristol's way ahead of a lot of towns and still in baby steps. So we wouldn't be eligible for either of those projects yet, because both of them require greater availability and investment of select board and town leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you, Porter. Porter, I wrote down a few things that you'd said, that they'd look into welcome signs and support for small businesses and stuff. The first 4 or 5 you said, and I think we're doing that now. I think we're doing that now. I mean, we've supported small business through our revolving loan fund and started businesses and things. I think of Cool Sports, the bicycle shop down there, 116. I just went by a few minutes ago, and I kind of wanted to go back to Jimmy's question. Are we looking for a problem that we don't have?
I think that the issue is that you can't solve a problem if you can't see it. And so I think that, one of the things that often happens in these initial dialogues is that people hear things that they hadn't heard before. That was one of the reasons why we did the training for town employees, and we could run some of those trainings again. It might be great if select board members were able to come. But I can give you a couple of examples, and I'll use personal ones so that I'm not sort of sharing those examples from other people in our community. I never thought that Bristol was a place where a person of color would be uncomfortable. I mean, I think it's a great town, and I love it here, but we participated in the Fresh Air Fund when our kids were little, and we had a little boy from the Bronx who's African-American, and he started coming when he was 5, and he's 26 now, and he still comes a lot, so you might see him around town. But when he was 14, he grew a ton, and he was a lot taller than me. And we were walking to Cubbers one day, and 3 different cars in the walk between Garfield Street and Cubbers. And to be clear, it all happened on North Street, in that one block. One of them actually rolled down the window and hurled a racial slur. And one just turned down and stared at us. And the other one sort of like made an aggressive car sound, which may or may not have had anything to do with us. We don't know. But I was like, what's going on? And he said, you're walking with a black man. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I mean, it's just like, it's you. And also like, you're my kid, like whatever. And he said, I'm taller than you. I'm a big black guy and you're a white woman. And that makes people uncomfortable. And I was like, what? I had no idea. Another example is, some of you may be aware, we had a foster son, and one of his parents was Chinese, and he went to Mount Abe, and we've had 5 kids go to Mount Abe between exchange students, my own kids, and the foster kid. All of the others were of European descent, white. But when this child was there, he got harassed in gym class in way, like people said things to him like I have never heard on the street in Bristol. You know, and they made slurs about him being black until he protested, as one vulnerabilized person might say, to distance themselves from another vulnerabilized population. I'm not black, I'm half Chinese. So then they just switched their racial slurs to calling him racial slurs about Chinese. And like to the point where actually in gym class, you know, kids threw a football at his face, and he had a retinal tear. Like, these are things that you would never believe could happen in our town. I thought, I mean, my kids went through Mount Abe and it was a wonderful place, and it is a wonderful place. And also there are things we don't know. And I'll just add one other story, which is one that our consultant shared with us when we were talking about systemic racism and the ways that when you are part of a class that is not affected negatively by systemic racism, you just don't even notice it. And so Tabitha is African-American. And so she said all during COVID, she's so frustrated because, like, you know, like hand sanitizer things popped up everywhere you went, you know, whether you're, you know, at the grocery store or like everywhere you went, and she would put her hand on the sanitizer, just like never worked. And she's like, this is crazy. But, you know, she carried her own sanitizer like most of us did anyway, and no big deal, until she found out that the company that made the there's several companies, but the biggest company that made the hand sanitizer dispensers didn't test them on dark-skinned hands. They don't work if your hand is dark. Now, what we need to keep in mind is like, okay, that's annoying if you're a black person and maybe a little bit insulting, but when we're asking, like to Jim's question, like, why is this a problem? Or to Joel's, or, you know, to Michelle's, like, what does this matter to Bristol? Well, there were like entire school districts in Philadelphia that put sanitizer stations in their school, and they don't work on the majority of the population. Nobody was being racist. They just didn't think to test it on different skin hues. So the thing about, like, you don't know what you don't know, and you're not being a jerk or a bad person if you culturally or habitually behave in ways that you have culturally habitually learned to behave. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. Learning about anti-racism doesn't mean that you're a racist. It means that our culture has been set up in a very specific way that happens to privilege white people, and that wasn't an accident. But now none of us wants to be a racist, but we can't even see the systems that provide barriers to vulnerable populations. And it's not just about race, although this example is about race, but it's also about people with different physical mobilities. It's about people who speak different languages. It's about people with different gender identities. So when I answered Michelle's question and I said, why are we doing this? It's not to brainwash or retrain or make the good people of Bristol think they're bad or that they're wrong. It's to look at all the things we don't see or don't know about and make them better for everybody. Because the reality is that, you know, policies that discriminate against anyone hurt all of us. And I'll give one example of that, which is that, you know, back in the, whatever it was, 50s, 60s, when integration was required, communities had to integrate their swimming pools in their town parks. And a lot of communities in the South straight up closed the pool. They're like, we are not swimming with those people, so we're gonna fill the pool. Well, all of those kids of every race then didn't have a pool in the summer in the South. We're not thinking that way anymore. None of us is here in Bristol, Vermont. But the point of that story is to recognize that when we are as open and inclusive and welcoming of everybody, and we're curious to learn about people who have differences, it creates an opportunity for all of us to grow and have benefits. So that's what we're trying to do here.
I think that's a really good point, though, too. I mean, to think about diversity and inclusion is for lots of different types of people. Like I remember when I had my son and I had to navigate Bristol with a stroller. And that was the first time I realized how inaccessible a lot of the businesses are, where you're trying to find a back door that actually is locked and you can't go in through that back door. So then you're trying to like get a stroller up all these stone steps without dropping your baby. And I mean, that's sort of a silly example because it's a temporary example, but you don't know what the challenges are until you see in a different way. And so I think that's a really good point.
All right, I know we got a couple of people who have put in some time to come here tonight and wants to be on the list, so I'd like to hear what you ladies think of this
I'd love
process.
to speak for a moment if there's time.
Sure.
So hi Porter. So just in support of what Porter's saying, I am interested in being on the committee. About almost 5 years ago now, I was a retired business owner and a lifelong resident of the town. I began to make it my personal practice to realize that I am a racist because that's the way I was brought up. I was raised in a completely white community that was so imbued in whiteness and without any kind of diversity, got swept up in the systems of racism that exists in our country without even knowing it, never taught about it in school, never had personal experience of it. And I feel like I have grown so much in the last 5 years as far as my awareness of how subtle racist incidents can be, so that most of us, the worst white folk, don't even really notice that it's happening because it's what we've always experienced, is what we're used to. It's the water that we drink, it's the air that we breathe, and it's really easy to say we're a great white community, and if there's a problem, it's not ours, but it really is our problem. And the most important thing I've learned from that study is that I will not be a completely free person, and I will not do better in my life until everybody else, regardless of their color or their ability or their gender or their religious preferences, until everybody else does as well as I have been able to do in my life, I will not do better. That has to happen first. And I think that to me would be the heart of this committee. In other words, I could see that this committee would be the part of our town that speaks with people that have that same misunderstanding. Well, how does this affect me? How is it going to be better for me if I make it better for somebody else? And to be able to explain to people how there's a direct connection, because racism it has had a really bad effect on white people, a really horrific effect on white people. When you really learn about the systemic nature of it, where it comes from, how it started, how it was built. And I will admit that my tendency is to look at racial equity before everything else, because it is such an underpinning of our culture. And one way I might say it, it's one thing if you're gay, but if you're gay and black, it's twice as bad. It's one thing if you're black, but if you're a black woman, it's twice as bad as being a black man. So there's so many levels of it, and it's really all stems from this root of a white culture being set up as the norm. And I heard the word diversity spoken tonight. And I think we have to remember that whenever you speak the word diversity, you need to then say diverse from what? Diverse from whiteness. And we're all white, so we don't see the need for diversity necessarily. We get along fine just like we are. I just recently learned that there was a community of almost 40 Black people living in Bristol up until the 1940s, and they all disappeared. My question is why? Something happened to make them want to leave here, and now we have hardly any people of color living in our wonderful town that we'd like to share with people. So when I think of this committee, I have like a Star Trek moment. Like, to me, this committee could boldly go where no committee has ever gone. If we could become a standard for towns across the state and maybe even across the country, if we were to take an honest look at what really happens in our community, the parts that we don't want to see, the underbelly that nobody talks about, and lift it up and dissect it and say, what would it be like? What if we could take all those signs that Porter did so brilliantly during COVID that said, this is why I love Bristol, and they were on the end of the building at Main Street. And I stood there and read them, and I could read each one and go, as long as you're white, unless you're Black, right? Because I have witnessed on a summer night in Bristol, Vermont, 3 young men in a pickup truck nearly drag a Black boy out of his car behind the National Bank in Middlebury and give him a beating until I drove by and flashed my lights and they all ran away. I have been to meetings of the high school anti-racist coalition and sat there in tears for hours, listening to parents of children of color in our town say things like, my Black daughter does not feel comfortable playing in her front yard alone because she's been threatened with death by her classmates. I watched a young Asian male saying, I am so glad I'm graduating this year. I'm suffering from depression. I've been to the school board, I've been to the guidance counselors, I've been to my teachers, and no one has helped me not be bullied because I'm Asian. In our schools, I've heard this from their mouths on Zoom screens during COVID and cried for 2 or 3 days. It's really here. The things I'm talking about are here, they're now. It's time to face it, lift it up, dissect it, and figure out what we can do to be different than we are now. And I thank you for even considering the committee, and if you think I would be a decent person to be on it, I'd be happy to give it a shot. Thank you, Porter, for what you're doing.
Thank you. It's Sally, right?
That's
I would love to serve with her. I did serve on a human rights commission for 3 years in Montgomery County, Maryland. It was called the Human Relations Commission at that time. We weren't doing the granular work that you're talking about. The school board finally set up its own human relations outfit. We coordinated with it. We were more likely to get complaints of, well, one was police brutality, and one, different things that if the person goes to the press first, then it creates a bad image for whatever the municipality is. And it's really helpful to have a place where people can go and take their issue and then have people who really research it and figure out what the problem is. And, and sometimes there is a problem, but then you wake the organization up to it. Hey, this is a problem, and they can work out a fix. I have Well, I'm gonna just read some of these things that I wrote down this evening. Why sometimes there's like not, the issue is not as big as it looks. This bullying is a big deal, and, you know, it's one that we don't see, but it's one that we need to kind of get cultural awareness. And I think that the hub is probably a place that has effective ways of working with that. Okay, so I have here, some people have been trained by their family, by their culture or religion, not to assert themselves. So as we get diverse cultures coming in and people from other countries, you know, who may not speak English well, but many women, but also many, you know, religions or ethnic groups have been taught, you know, do not question authority, you know, because you get killed or whatever. And so they don't, somebody that they see as you know, important authority figure, they won't question or stand up for themselves. And I have seen this result in a Navajo friend having absolutely terrible medical care because the doctors don't understand what her issue is, and she isn't gonna, you know, if once they've said what they think it is, you know, she won't tell them that they're wrong and won't give them the other background. So sometimes it's teaching people culturally that it is okay to let a doctor or a teacher or a public servant of some sort know that they didn't understand. Why? Well, the person may not be communicating well, you know, but anyway, so sometimes it's that sort of issue. And I have found that to solve one of the problems. Okay, so when I served on this Human Relations Commission, it was set up really with committees where the stuff would go to the Justice Committee, the Housing Committee, the you know, different kinds of committees. And then the committee would really do all of the research and come up with a proposal which they would present to the larger group. And then we would either say, well, did you look at this and this and this, you know, maybe send it back to committee, or here's what the solution is. But it's really important during that investigation period that you are not doing that publicly. But that, because sometimes these are cases that have already, you've heard about it because somebody went to the press, which is, you know, getting a lot of gossip going. But anyway, you need to just have the privacy about it, but then you need to be public in the solution. I can give some funny examples.
Real quickly, give us one.
Okay, all right. Well, all right, one was our council was a whole bunch of angry, really angry rural black people showed up at this meeting, and they were just yelling about how the Human Relations Commission was racist, and the county government was racist, and the school system was racist. And the one lawyer on the committee kept saying, could you tell me what it was that made you want to come here? You know, it took about 10 minutes. And finally it was because the school bus picks up the white kids on the roads right in front of their houses, and the black kids have to walk a long way on their road out to the road that the white kids live on to get picked up. And he said, thank you. Now we have something to investigate. So he goes to the school department. It turns out that the black kids live on a road that's a dead end, and the school bus can't turn around, so it can't go in there. And that's why they have to walk out. The solution was the school system assigned a minibus to that route, so it could go get the black kids. So sometimes, it's not because anybody is doing it intentionally, but that's how it's perceived and experienced by people. So that's one. There's another one that's funnier, but it'll take longer.
Well, thank you.
That's police brutality that wasn't.
Okay, well, thank you. So, what is our?
I just want to mention that we received letters of interest from 6 folks: Betsy Blair, Alyssa Cobb, Annika Luna, Darla Senecal, Krista Seringo, and Trevor Wilson. So the other folks weren't able to be here tonight.
You're looking for a committee of 5, is that correct? We have 6.
I believe that was the original
Okay,
discussion.
we have 6 applicants.
Correct.
Um,
You may want to discuss in deliberative session if you want. I mean, that's an option.
We have executive session anyway tonight.
Not necessarily. No,
Okay, I saw it on the back, the last.
it's tentative if needed.
What's your pleasure, Susan?
You want us to just leave and then you could.
No,
No, it's open meeting.
open meeting.
I mean, I know on that list, I know 4 of the people fairly well, and wouldn't have any hesitation to recommend them for the committee. 2, I don't know. 1, Trevor, he asked about time commitments before committing. So I don't know if that's we could find out from him what he's looking for, or maybe we wouldn't have him as an applicant for the committee, or as a alternate perhaps. I don't want to turn people away who are interested in being on this committee. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to approve 4 people if we decided to establish a committee this evening.
Can I ask just one quick question? So, to me, an equity committee inherently means that it would be proposing or asking for change. Uncomfortable change, probably in some cases. I mean, a good example is what's happening with the Ford Bandstand right now, right? That's a really great example of an equity-oriented change. So I think it would help me. I mean, I don't even know if you're considering me for the committee or not, but it would be really good to know going in. Is this gonna be just a committee that does this and then nothing happens? Or is this, as a group, as a select board group, do you all feel ready to work with difficult change proposals and what that might bring from this committee? Do you know what I mean? It's like, what is the intention for the follow-up of what the committee could possibly bring your way?
I guess my thought is going down that road that you're mentioning, Lisa, is if you brought change to us and then, let's say it was a school bus issue or a school thing, what is this 5-member board can change that? How can we?
Yeah.
I don't want you guys just to meet and then say, well, they brought us a lot of stuff, but there's not much we can do about it.
Yeah.
Or we can say, hey, everybody, you gotta play better, we gotta play nicer.
Yeah.
And now don't thrash the one boy that's different, or one girl that's different, pick up, bully. But how does this group change that? That's my thought right there. How do we go and make change?
Yeah.
The 5 of us.
Just with the Human Relations Commission, the only real contact we had with the county council was that they made the appointments to the commission. But the problems, if they were police problems, we went to the police. If they were, you know, school problems, we go to the school. If it was some department of the town, then we go to that department, and then maybe the, you know, the select board might have to talk to that department.
When we have control over our town business, we wouldn't have control over the school, you know, or stuff like, that's something we'd have to bring to them, you know, but we
And it
deal
would
with
be-
hard stuff all the time.
It'd be
Just anybody
interesting.
here who's afraid of that.
It'd be interesting if the school has that, the same sort of conversation going on now.
They do
And
have
they
a diverse and equity.
Diversity, huh?
I've been working
I
on
was-
that.
Yeah, you know,
And I guess I just wanna put out there, maybe it's okay that we don't know. That we don't have the answer, because we don't really know what we're looking at yet. Yeah.
I mean, I think, for me, I think all of our committees, we ask them to bring things to us that will better the town.
Yeah.
If it's energy, if it's planning, if it's the bicycle pedestrian committee, all of those, we're looking for feedback. It's, you know, it's outreach in all the different ways we feel the town will hopefully improve and better itself over time. So I would say, yes, I mean, I don't think we would set up a committee that we wouldn't consider discussion from. I think that benefits all of us.
Yeah.
okay. Order, you got your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. I would say, just to echo what everybody has shared, that the expectation as it was written as a recommendation from the grant report and as the select board approved it as a application for the next grant round is that the committee would definitely recommend actions that the select board and town could consider. And also that there would be things that the committee could do on their own as volunteers, just as many other committees and commissions do. So that they wouldn't just be talking, they wouldn't just be bringing ideas to the select board and saying, here, do it. But it would be focused on action and some things that the select board or town could move ahead with, other things that the committee members could do. And if they saw things for other, you know, entities or organizations, that they could share that as well. And there is grant, I mean, that was what we wrote the second grant for. So like the town received $10,000 last July for this calendar year, and the select board hasn't yet used any of that money for the DEI work that they received that grant for. This would be your first step, select board, to get that ball rolling. And the equity committee, you know, it was written in the grant for them to have some resources available for some things that they could do to get this moving. So there's that. The other thing I just wanted to say is, as the grant report was written, the committee was written as 5 to 7 committee members. So if you wanted to, as I think maybe Ian or Jessica suggested, like, we don't want to turn people away if they're volunteering in town, to make that, invite all of them to be a part of it. And then as they form themselves and decide their leadership structure, their meeting schedule, and their mission statement, then if there are some of them who say, this is maybe not what I thought I signed up for or what I wanted to be involved in, that would be fine. My only thing is, and I know that Betsy and Elisa will be comfortable if I say this, and Jim might laugh, but like, it's my personal hope that this won't be made up of a bunch of well-meaning middle-aged white women. And so I think it's really, really important that the committee prepare itself to actively look for different voices, whether that means youth or whether that means people of color or whether that means people of different mobilities or means of communicating. Like, I just think that, you know, we need more variety there. And so if the committee embraces that as a commitment for themselves as well as other towns, committees and commissions, then, you know, they can decide how they want to juggle the makeup as they move forward.
I guess my one suggestion would be to have it as an odd number, so that if they are making some kind of decisions within their group, that there's a quorum and they're not gonna be at a, you know, 3 and 3.
Joe,
Yes.
there's one other thing you have to take into consideration, civil liability. Whatever any committee does, you guys are ultimately responsible, so you're gonna have to set some guidelines if you plan on going through this, what they can and can't do. Because if they take some action with, say, the school board, has nothing to do with you guys, they take the action on a particular situation. They go to the school board, and there's a problem with that, with the victim, or whatever you wanna call it. Makes a complaint about it. Now, you guys are gonna be responsible for this committee. You have to set some real strict guidelines on what they can and can't do. But, you know, the town is ultimately liable.
I don't think there's any decisions they're gonna be making without select board approval, so.
I guess I would like to,
There are some that try, and thank God I'm there to help it out, what's going on, straighten it out.
I would like to see, as Porter just mentioned, a mission statement first before we, this,
Well, you gotta appoint them
Yeah,
first.
you
in
gotta have
order
a
to then
committee
be-
for them,
Committee
in
to have a
order for
mission
them to come up
statement.
with a mission statement. The one thing that's going through my mind is what if the board doesn't agree with a decision or something that's brought forward? We form committees with the intent of using their feedback. And if we get something that we as a board don't feel, don't feel is appropriate, how do we deal with that? Because we've taken these people and we've asked them to invest their time and give us feedback. And then we turn around and say, no, what happens then?
Well, we do that with,
All the time.
I
with
know.
boards that we already have engaged. The
Mhm.
bicycle pedestrian is a good example in terms of proposals that were brought forward on that. I think part of it is just having further discussion. I think that the worst we could do is say, no, we're not gonna entertain that. But I don't think we've ever done that. We've questioned stuff, and I think it's always been within good reason. And I think the discussions have always been very practical and very healthy. I wouldn't see, I think that's inevitable. I think that will happen, depending on what matter is being discussed. We're always gonna be sort of talking about it and looking at it from our own perspectives. But I think as a board, I think we work really well, and we bring a whole bunch of different backgrounds to this, which I think is good.
But I guess, in response to what Jimmy said, I hate to form a committee and then have my thumb right on top of them saying, this is what you're gonna do, this is what you're not gonna do, because then we're not getting the answers that we're looking for. We're not getting the diversity that we're looking for.
Right.
By squishing right from the start.
You mean micromanaging?
Yeah.
I don't think we do that with any.
No, I don't think
Part
we
of it is
do,
sort of training, and I think if the committee is set up in a proper way, I think using grant funding that we have to sort of bring in an expert to sort of set up and work with the committee on producing the mission and getting it started, I think would be good. I think that's one of the things that we are kind of missing from previous boards, especially new ones. It's sort of the guidance there.
and I guess you guys, when I was thinking of a mission statement from the board of what we want, we'd like to see, not want, see.
I don't think
I don't know
that's-
that
that's
I'm
like-
qualified to do that.
That's the opposite of it.
Right.
We want the committee to.
Well, I'm taking
explore.
what Porter was saying, all these, equity and all these things,
Right.
is where do we see, like to go with a mission statement?
Well, I don't think we do. I think it's up to them to sort of create it. The same with any of our other boards. The Energy Committee, I think a lot of those committees, I keep bringing up bicycle, but that's one of our newest, that came out of an ad hoc committee because community members saw things that perhaps could be improved or needs that needed to be met for the community. Came to us, presented ideas, we created the board, they worked on their mission statement as a committee. So I think that's something that the committee creates. It's not up to us to sort of micromanage that. I think we're giving approval based on what we asked of community members, and we're going to be volunteering in terms of starting this committee, but I think it's up to them to sort of create that and report back to us.
So, okay, we appoint the committee and they write a mission statement before we so-called turn them loose. Should the mission statement come back to us for an overview?
Sure, I think they would present it as the committee starts to form, and individual things are looked at. I think then it's a mission statement, and other committees have done that too. They brought, and it can always be updated too.
Right, and the committees don't take action without us. I mean, if they want to do a grant everything goes through us. So it's not like we're setting them free, like they're gonna sort of, deputize themselves and go out and do stuff. So
Yeah.
I think it would be fine.
Well, we've had some grants that we better sign it tonight because we applied for it yesterday, so to speak. We kind of.
Yeah. Well, we'll have a stern talking to about it.
I'd just like to say that, in my work with human rights, the problem was that we were not empowered. I mean, like, you can't stop people from discriminating in apartments. They just say, no, we didn't do that, and so then you have to get them to sign an agreement saying, no, we don't discriminate. Then you've got something legal. But I mean, we would have to be invited into the schools. I did some training of police cadets and what were trigger words, but that was because I got invited, so it's not like that you go and say, I have the power to force you to do something. No, you don't have any power, so you don't really have to worry about, I mean, if we get any power, because you specifically gave it to us and there would be a legal document saying what it was.
And then, does that, I'll build on that question.
I mean, if we figured out some issue that local government might be able to fix, then we would come and either present it or send it by a letter saying, here's an issue, you want to do anything about it, and then you can go ahead and talk about whether you want to do anything about it. But we'd be out there trying to figure out what the problems were, and I see as being an identifiable place where people who do have a grievance, real or imagined, can go and get some redress or some understanding and some explaining about, well, here's why it didn't work.
Okay. So,
I don't want to
Sorry,
belabor
Katie.
things, but I just would like to say one thing for the record, if I could.
Yes.
So, it was over a year ago now that I came to you with the report from the last grant round and submitted the grant recommendations and told you about the invitation from Vermont Community Foundation. And you guys said, yeah, let's do it. So I submitted that, and we submitted a grant request to the Vermont Community Foundation for $10,000, which included, $5,000 for consultant support and additional training, which we haven't done yet, and $3,000 for community outreach and support, which we haven't done yet, and $2,000 to develop metrics, which we haven't done yet. The Community Foundation sent $10,000. It's in our bank account, and they've been very gracious. When I touched base with the mid-year report in December and said the select board's been very busy, there have been some staffing turnover issues. This hasn't been on their radar screen. Patience with us. The first thing on the agenda is to get the equity committee so they have support and guidance and additional community voices to drive this bus. And they said, of course, no problem. So I'm a little surprised and I have to say a little bit disappointed that the select board is really seeming to be, a little bit hesitant about even forming the committee, given that we did ask for that money and we got it, and that hinged on having somebody support the town because, this is new stuff to take on, and that's not something we can put on our existing staff. And while I'm very happy to help as a volunteer, I don't think that I should be doing this, not because I don't want to, but because we need different and more voices participating in this. So, I applaud the select board for passing the Declaration of Inclusion in 2021 and for moving ahead with some staff support and training and the things that we did last year. And I'm just surprised that, Jessica's new, but the others of you were on the board a year ago. And so I just wanted to put that out there and be like, if you're feeling like, actually, we don't really want to do this, then we probably have to give the money back, which is fine. We don't have to spend that money, but this isn't like a new ask to form the committee. And it's not like the select board is like, what's going to happen? What are they going to do? Like, they will come to you with everything. You will make the decisions on how that money is spent. But you also approved the application that we made a year ago for this money. So it's not like it shouldn't really be a huge shocker.
Okay, alrighty, so we've been well over the 20 minutes, so what do you guys want to do?
This would be my suggestion, because I want to keep it to 5 right now. If we can get more people involved, then we can move it to 7. And Betsy, I know you have been on boards before with us, so I would like to give an option to the other 5, which is Trevor, Darla, Krista, Annika, is it Annika? And Elisa, and then have Betsy as the alternative if we get another person in there. So then we could have 7 for this time around, until we, have the 5, have Betsy as an alternative. If, either if Trevor decides he doesn't want to do it, or if we can get another person, so we have a 7-member board.
Could we ask the 6 volunteers just to discuss amongst themselves and decide which 5 would prefer to be the regular members and which one would be the alternate, if there are 6 people?
I want to put that on them.
Well, because a lot of times when you volunteer, you don't know how many other people are volunteering.
Sure.
And if you're really busy and you're like, well, it's great work, but if there's enough people, I'd sit out. Rather than us decide, it might be easier, not to make them like play Hunger Games or something to figure out who's going to be on the committee, but it just might be that people volunteered because it's a good idea, but they actually are worried that they might not be able to do
I would
it.
be happy to be an alternate.
Okay. That's fine too. Now those other people better do it.
Is that a motion, Michelle?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, Valerie, so how did the 5, 6, or whatever, the list that she just gave, how did they become aware of this? I want to make sure.
In your packet and posted online and in the link through the town admin report, I posted this ad on Front Porch Forum and elsewhere multiple
Okay, so-
times.
Yeah, they responded to an ad.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay, there's a motion and a second to form the committee with the names that Michelle just read off. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay.
Welcome to the committee.
Welcome to the committee. Number 3, consider ARPA.
Wait a second. Porter, will you help them set up the first meeting and then they can take it from there?
Yep, and Tabitha can also be involved with that. So she and I will provide support throughout the first year, just to add that continuity from where it was coming from until they get started and decide that they know where they want to go. So.
Okay, I didn't want to leave you guys just like, here, figure it out. Thank you, Porter.
Thank you, Porter.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy, for speaking. Consider ARPA funds allocation request of $12,000 support the EV charger grant application.
This is on the agenda at Ian's request, so, and some information is provided in the TA report, but I think perhaps Ian wants to give more of an overview.
Is this on the original list of stuff? I know that's always been.
On the ARPA list?
Yeah.
Number 10.
Okay.
And we had sort of assigned monies. We were looking at level 2 charging. We got a grant for that. And it was going to be 20,000. So we sort of kind of earmarked that with the idea as we move forward, whether we would find a location for the level 2s. Level 2s,
Not gonna work.
well, location was tough. And it seemed like the community sort of were outspoken about moving to level 3s just because of the speed at which they can charge a vehicle. So initially we engaged Norwich EV as the vendor. They handled that grant application. We got it. The energy committee went back to them. The town engaged Norwich to handle the level 3. I was a little bit confused. There's a lot of emails going back and forth. So I spoke to Norwich EV, and essentially it's the town isn't really involved unless the level 3 chargers are going to go on the town property. They are not, because there's no really not a good location for us to put that equipment just because the amount of physical equipment there is. We've recognized and found the property owner Thomas Wells and Carol Wells at a location which is the old Sprout House or the Mountain Greens.
It's
on that.
convenient for downtown.
Yes, it's convenient there. We also looked at Carmelo as well. A couple of potential locations. The biggest hurdle in terms of the grant application is one of the biggest hurdles is the cost. Keeping it lower makes our application look better, and hopefully we can get it. The advantage for Tom's location is that we have a 3-phase power behind Shaw's. So it's the shortest distance to run to his property. He's a big supporter of it, but he asked for financial contribution as part of the grant. Norwich EV can't do that. They're essentially saying that it's not a huge moneymaker for them because there are a lot of uncertainties as they build this out for different towns. They mainly focus, they do EV charging, but they mainly focus on solar applications, things like that. So my thought, if we really want to make this happen, was to use ARPA funds to support the application. And these ARPA funds would be used to support the property owner, whether it's Tom, whether it's somebody else that he sells. It's at least a year out, potentially, even if we get the grant, before we even get a transformer here, according to GMP. So yeah, so that's what I'm proposing. North grant won't cover it. They don't cover property compensation.
So this is a 5-year lease?
It is. That's
what happens at the end of 5 years. I'm just.
You
Yeah.
took that right out of my mouth.
I'm paying attention.
It would be between the property owner and Norwich EV. Norwich essentially handles everything. They handle the application. We've given them their permission to say it's for the town of Bristol. And if it was on our property, we'd be working more with them because it's gone to a private property owner. Norwich works with that private property owner. So
is this kind of like a land lease type of thing?
Correct.
Like you're paying for a land lease
Exactly.
for that.
Yeah.
So after the 5 years, then it's up to Tom and Carol to deal with.
correct. And if
with
Tom
them
and Carol had
directly.
sold by then, which they might have done, then it's again to
whoever
the new
else.
property owner.
Mhm.
And for this, I would say the 12,000 we would distribute
Each year.
correct each
No.
year,
No.
and then it's to the property owner, not to Tom.
Not 12,000.
So if it
Whoever
does change hands,
Right, it's 12,000 total for
Yeah.
12 years.
if it does change hands, then it goes to the next
That
person,
new
and
owner.
they figure out.
And who gets that money? Who?
Tom and Carol Wells.
Whoever's on
The-
land.
the property. The property.
I guess incentive for them to do it,
Correct.
and it's supposed to benefit us.
It benefits
As community.
correct.
Benefits the people with electric vehicles.
Right,
Yeah.
which could be people in Bristol,
Yeah.
could be people outside of Bristol.
Yeah.
So I really need to crack the nut on what happens after 5 years.
That's between them and Norwich.
So if they
you know that.
say, take them out, you're
Yeah.
not paying me anymore,
Correct.
then Bristol doesn't have any, in
Mhm.
5 years, will go by just like that.
But we will only have put in the $12,000 at that
Correct.
point, right?
Mhm.
Correct.
But I'm not sure, then we could be, within 5 years, we could be no EV chargers in town, which is our goal, to get some in
Right.
town.
Mhm.
But we don't
I
have.
think that's
we-
unlikely to happen.
Yeah,
Right.
I think
I don't
once
think
it's
it's-
established, I don't think it'll,
Disappear.
it's
I mean, because they can,
negotiating any lease.
because they get whatever charge the EV charger charges, right?
They're picking
Tom
a
and-
certain amount, so
Tom and
it's-
Carol, or the landowner will get whatever's charged from the charger.
No, they don't get
Right?
any of that.
They don't get any of
Norwich
that?
handles all
Norwich
of
gets
that.
that?
Essentially, the GMP
Because I thought we were
account is
talking about,
connected.
when we were putting it in, the town could get
Correct.
some of that.
And that was the level 2. Level 3 is a little bit more complicated.
level 3
just
are the
because of
bigger ones?
infrastructure.
Yeah, the
Like
ones like
faster.
in
Correct,
Virginia.
like the ones in Virgins.
Mhm.
So the ones in Virgins, it's Parmelo land that they're leasing for the Tesla superchargers. And they've just done a land lease agreement, and Norwich or whoever put those in, they handle everything else.
But in,
Question, because I don't know, will this handle either the Teslas or the others, or is it just one or the other?
No, it'll handle anything.
Either one.
Yeah.
Anything.
Have we got a proposal yet from Palmelo?
No, because we're looking at this first, and because we had a property owner who was interested in this, and it was the cheapest solution. With Parmelo, the closest location would be that middle green section in the back parking lot. And you still have to trench a lot of the way to get to putting the equipment in that green section. So it's more money. And Norwich felt that to use this as the grant application for this particular property, just because it's the shortest distance.
And we're not taking up parking
Parking
spaces.
spaces.
Yeah, I made a call to Carmel. I haven't heard back from them. I've talked about them in other locations, but they wouldn't work because the distance is just, it's the cost. is
So, yeah, and
much.
I just look like the 4 new spaces, there's only 2 chargers, but it creates 4
Correct.
spaces, right?
And they're going for that just because, again, it makes the grant application stronger for us.
So
You know.
what if Palmer says, well, they didn't, I could have done cheaper, blah, 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 or whatever. And they
You can put in
decided,
more.
no, they decided to put a fence up. There used to be a fence there because people were cutting, when Mountain Greens went in, Palmer's was in shut, because Shaw's was there and they were upset, they were, selling
They were cutting through and shopping at Shaw's, so they were upset.
or cutting through, going to Shaw's, get their not getting their vegetables and going to Mountain Green and parking at Shaw's. And they put a fence
I
up.
used to do that all the time.
Guilty as charged.
And there's a fence goes up and they say, well, we're not gonna charge there because we gotta go all the way down Mount, if we wanna go downtown. And that was our goal. You shop, please come charge your car and shop downtown.
Right.
But if you're just like driving right around the block, I don't think that's a big deal. And I also like the fact that it is actually only 5 years, because who knows what the technology will be like in
Right.
5 years? We're not on the hook for it, right?
Yes, that's the biggest thing with this, is that with
Changes.
private property,
Mm-mm.
and the fact that, they want an amount of money, that amount, was presented to Norwich without any knowledge of using ARPA funds. That's what it was essentially, it's $50 per space, so $200 a month. That's what he came up
Which
with.
is
Yeah,
reasonable.
yeah, he felt that, that it's a business. They're putting in charges onto his land, it's Tom's at the moment, but, eventually he'll probably sell at some point. Want to retire, have that, so it's gonna be someone else, and they'll probably do exactly the same thing. If you own the land, I'm sure, it's hard to do things for free, especially with this kind of stuff. So this is the strongest application for us, and so really, it's just if we can compensate the current property owner and have the agreement, and we can do it, per year, the current
So
property
if
owner is
they-
fine with that.
If we don't get the grant, then this would be a moot point.
Correct. Right, exactly, right. So if we can support this and say, yep, we're fine with this, we work out the agreement, so it's to the property owner each year, and then figure out once we get, because we need to spend the ARPA money by a certain time, see what's happening then.
No, we don't.
Well, it turns out
Yeah, we
actually,
do.
we have to obligate it,
Yes,
yeah.
And we are not obligated to set to the
But not
infrastructure of the
spend it,
town. of
right?
Bristol.
no, we have to spend it by
We haven't,
2026.
but we haven't put a set into the infrastructure of the town of Bristol that we all talked about when we first started. Sidewalks, guardrails, blah, 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 those types of
Correct.
things. Putting a down payment on the town garage thing, or the feasibility study, we haven't done any of that. I guess my problem is, this is the first time we've put ARPA funding money to a private owner.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Willow Well.
Well,
and-
well,
Bristol
Bristol
Rescue.
Yeah.
And.
you guys are-
Masons.
Yeah.
those are all non-profit. This is a
Mm.
business, profit for business. So what if, we used to have 3 gas stations in town. Dad's automotive, when he bought, they took the pumps out. What if he came in and said, I'd like $20,000 for, put pumps back in my garage?
They won't let him.
I know, figure, we know
We
that,
actually,
I'm just-
actually, the
just
town won't
bringing
let
it up.
him. Zoning won't let him.
No, it doesn't.
you just,
We had 6 gas stations.
we did one time. We got 2 now, and that's what, they both look down the street and set their own price. They don't care. It's just, I bring the point up, because this is the.
My personal opinion is we've got this on private land, and there is no place where we can support it on our property,
No.
the town's property, where it'll even be remotely,
Accessible
and, or
not look like a.
visually
Right.
acceptable.
I would like to at least hear from Paul before we approve this, but. you
Why?
guys can do
The
it.
deadline's June 1st.
Right.
for the-
Why do we have to wait for Pomeroy's?
Okay, we don't, I'm one vote
No,
to
I'm just-
5 here.
no, I'm
I'm one vote to
asking-
5 myself.
I'm asking you why.
Yeah.
What-
They
what's
may
your
do it
reason?
they may We don't know what they
It's
did with
not-
gens?
No, it's not about the cost. The cost is the actual, like, the wiring. It's the hardware, so it's GMP cost.
It's $12,000 to Tom and Carol Wells. That's the cost. There's no wire in there.
That's the
nothing.
land
That's the
lease.
rent we're losing.
That's the land
That's
lease,
the land
but
lease,
it's
and then-
more expensive to put it on
Yeah.
palm rolls.
Right.
Correct.
And it may not
Right,
happen.
Farmers could say, we do it for free, you're right. But we may not even get the grant because it's 20,000 more to put it on the Parma location.
The
That's-
grant,
that's
the
the
grant
reason.
only includes the installation, not, it doesn't have anything to do with the land lease or anything like that.
No, it doesn't, the grant won't accept it.
Mhm.
And it's a 90% grant that it covers, the other 10% is covered by Norwich. The town, I talked to him today, and there's no obligation from the town at all.
Mhm.
It would be if it was on our land.
Right.
But with this, it's just the approval from the town, which we've given to explore this.
Again, I'm thinking that Pomeroy's gonna look at this and say, I just gained 4 more spaces of people who are gonna park on the other side of the fence and shop on
Right.
my property.
Yeah.
Because that's, if you've got the electric vehicle and you come,
You're most likely gonna go charge it.
yeah, you're gonna go charge it and you're gonna walk across and you're gonna shop there. And so
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be 100% honest, I was dead set against having them on the park, so I
Oh,
think
yeah.
this is the best.
I was too,
This is the
yeah.
best alternative.
Yeah.
And I like, it's low risk, right? Like, we're just paying for 5 years. We have a 5-year
After
contract.
that, we're,
And then we can,
Yeah.
see what we want to do.
Yeah, the money's gone and then it's entirely up to the property owner. And yeah, there is an unknown. It seems unlikely that they would take them out unless in some miraculous way, we all switch to a newer, cheaper fuel. But it doesn't seem like that's happening.
no, battery technology is gonna change, they're still gonna have to be charged.
Still not be charged.
Yeah, or if we do hydrogen, but we'll see. And again, if we put our application in and we don't get it, then that money is still in the ARPA funds for use in other ways. Thanks, Betsy.
Good night, Betsy.
So along with this, it would be approval to use that and then a letter of support for the grant application. I think will
Then
help our cause.
I'll move that we allocate $12,000 to support the EV charger grant
And a second.
Over 5 years.
over 5 years.
So there's a motion and a second to approve the 12,000 for the EV charger grant application. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstain. Okay, guys have it.
So that would be for this, it's the approval for this and then a letter of support, which I've drafted, you can take a look at. I've also asked Bristol Core, since we're designated downtown, that could also help our application. But yeah, June 1st, and then we'll see what happens. But we have a very good chance. And
That's great.
the town isn't involved at all. It's great.
Being that we don't have one and they're looking to get
Yes,
them.
and we're gonna get 4, and they're all the level 3, which is the fast charger.
We're
which is
like right in the middle of the dead
Yeah, the
zone.
closest one is either Virgin's or Middleburg.
And I haven't had a chance to look at the draft you offered.
Okay.
Who did you have as signing it?
It was the board, but we can change if you prefer to just have it where it's,
Well, I'm just logistically.
oh.
I see no reason why Valerie can't sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, so we can just tweak it.
okay, great.
Do we want that in the motion or no?
You know,
We've already
I'd make a
voted.
motion, we authorize Valerie to sign the letter of support, letters.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
All those, any questions on that? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
There, we just got more work for you.
That's
But
great.
just signing a letter.
Thank you very much. I think this actually moves us
I'm-
much
I'm-
closer to actually getting charging. I mean, I've been
I'm way
working on it for
happier to
years.
go there than,
Yeah.
than,
Yes,
Trying to figure out
I'm
something.
not
Yes.
unhappy where they're going, I'm just not happy that in 5 years they can say, get them out that
yeah,
property.
I don't,
Or want to renegotiate another 5-year lease.
I don't see that happening.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
we say there's better technology available, we're gonna do something different.
Yeah,
right,
So, I mean,
that's
there's
true.
risk on both sides of the contract.
Because technology is gonna change.
Oh, yeah.
there's no
Right.
doubt.
Review the annual fire station, annual stormwater inspection report, Steve Palmer, PE, BTM Engineering.
Thank you, Steve. I'm glad that there's no issues.
Yeah.
Next.
We need to just,
Yeah, do we
we're
need
just
to-
reviewing it, right? We don't need a new motion.
Okay, hopefully folks had a chance to see
Review of
it.
annual landfill and stormwater inspection report,
Oh, so
from
like that.
BTM Engineering.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
You got two up in front of you. Want to do the third one? No, can't do the third one.
Let's talk about everything exciting like stormwater, wastewater. I could tell you guys were pretty excited about some of the other conversations. Yeah, I'm gonna cover these quickly, and if anybody has questions, just stop me. I think the one you're gonna maybe want to spend time on is probably wastewater. So, yeah, I do, I think 4 different inspections for you folks, annual inspections every year. The first one, obviously, the simple one really is the fire station stormwater. Fire station, as you guys realize, is brand new. The system's pretty much brand new. The guys at the fire station have been doing a great job maintenance wise, even like plow damage to the yard and things like that. Within 3 weeks of, snow being gone, they had everything raked, seeded. I can run through a bunch of pictures for you, but I don't think it's worth your time, to be honest with you. There weren't a single problem. Floor bay looks great. There's no sediment in it. I sent a draft report off to Valerie. Since there weren't any issues, I already sent it into the state. I didn't think anybody's gonna have any issues, so.
You can't tell the state we don't need it anymore?
No, all right. The system works great, though. I mean, I think it's really
They'll
well.
probably charge us a 3% administrative fee for it. Though.
I think the next one Valerie had on the list was the landfill.
Landfill.
Yep. Valerie, does it make sense? Can you give me control? Well, wait a minute. Actually, you don't need to do
Ian
that.
may have
Ian,
to.
can you do it?
Ian will have to.
Somehow Zoom doesn't like me anymore.
Not sure.
I don't know if it's because we get in first on this one before you get in. Maybe.
I guess I am co-host.
You are. co-host.
How about that?
Let me I think it'll make more sense if I can just shoot through some pictures of you guys.
Yeah.
And,
You got it.
sorry, I had to use, again, my backup computer. I'm not sure why, but when we're on Zoom, this doesn't seem to, where is it? There we go. Sorry, I was in the wrong thing. There we go. 22 projects, Bristol, annual inspections, 24, landfill cap.
While you're finding that, I'm noticing that even though I'm on Zoom, even though I'm identified as co-host, I don't have the authority to make anybody else co-host. Doesn't give me that option. So that's
Right.
different.
No, that's normal. If you're co-host.
Oh, not the host.
That's right.
Oh.
Well, it depends how your permissions are set up.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
But it's leave a restricted setting.
yeah.
Valerie, maybe you can, unfortunately, I have 2 computers running here at the same time, and the one that I want is the one that it doesn't seem to have any sound on it when I'm on Zoom.
Okay.
So maybe we can just run through the photos in the back of the report. There wasn't, I mean, the significant things in here really, they're just annual maintenance items. And you're, by the way, you have 2 different permits for this, right? One's a landfill closure permit. And that's been around for a long time. The Division of Solid Waste has a whole number of things in that permit you're supposed to do on an annual basis. And most of it is just vegetation management more than anything else, right? It's making sure that your drainage swales are open and able to handle stormwater. Things are well vegetated so that you don't get erosion of the cap. You have a lot of trees and things like that growing through you have a plate cap on that landfill, right? To keep out infiltration. And for the most part, I will say, the folks up at the highway department have been doing a pretty good job keeping up with things. And I'm sorry, I can't pull those photos up for you, but there's some minor areas that need some reseeding and basically the findings in the back. I have to send a report on your behalf into the state every year. And this is one of your permit requirements, right? You should mow everything generally once a year. And the idea is that not only do they want to keep the vegetation down, they want to keep the grass as thick as you can get it, right? By mowing it once a year, you allow the root systems to really grow well and propagate. So field mowing obviously is on there once a year. And I think Eric's been keeping up with the majority of this stuff, honestly. Reseeding, and I'll point some of this out to him. I've been doing this, I think this is the 3rd year. And by far, yay, there we go. Thank you. Yep. Keep on rocking. You can see the landfill in general looks really good. I mean, it's a great walking area. I see so many people walking around that landfill. It's amazing. The path is really nice. Yeah, here's some areas you can see, probably need a little reseeding, but like I said, I've been doing this for 3 years, and each year it's gotten better and better, and Eric's really made an effort, I think, to get up and try to adjust the areas that are a little bit sparse. And I think more of that than anything else is probably from the solar project, more than anything that anybody else has done there. Honestly, it looks worse in these photos than I think it really is. The areas aren't that large, but some reseeding would be great. Here's just an example of some of the drainage swales that are there. They seem to be holding up really well, even through all those rains and things that we had last year. So, here's an example, one area over by, I call it the laydown area, right? It's right at the bottom of the drive access. Probably those trees probably need to come out of the drainage swale. You don't want those root systems growing through your clay cap, right? Just an example of one of the gas wells that's out there today. There's honestly not much gas coming out of here.
Right here, Steve, we're looking at that picture here, Michelle and I are, and it says drainage swale in need of a culvert.
Oh, that's the one right at the end, yeah.
Well, go back.
Go on
up
down.
and-
No,
No, the other
Yeah,
way.
very
the other
last,
way.
the very last one.
The
Very
very
last
last
picture.
slide you were just coming to.
Yep.
Right
Yeah,
there.
that one.
So yep, that's the bottom of the that drainage swale that was back about 3 or 4 pictures ago that comes straight down the hill. That's the bottom of it, right? So the water comes down, and then they built a new roadway for access, obviously, for the solar array. And as you can see, kind of just in the background, you can see there is another culvert. But there's a roadway in between with no culvert. So they kind of blocked up what was when they built the roadway. It just needs a culvert in there. And Eric's got a whole bunch of culverts up, sitting around up top. I'm sure he could find one 12 feet wide.
Could it be cleaned
arrow.
out? Could it be cleaned out and just the stone put back in the ditch?
Beaker, I don't know how much they need that for access up above. Perhaps. I just don't know what their access requirements are.
Where I have the cursor, is that where the culvert would go?
Correct. And if you went back about 3 or 4 pictures, you'd see the swale coming straight down the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it ends, at the bottom, with nowhere for the water to go. So, yeah.
So when they put the road in, they ruined it?
I think they just went right across the swale. Never put a culvert.
Okay, so can we go back after them and say you need to fix it?
I'm guessing that when it's not
Right
when
there.
it's not a heavy rain, if they didn't take the stone out, the water's migrating through the
Right.
stone and.
Could be. You know, there's a clay cap under there, Peter, so I don't, it can't go too far down, right? That's the cap. But all in all, it's pretty minor. Things look pretty good.
Yeah.
If you guys don't get out there on a regular basis, what a great place to walk and recreate. There are tons of people that go out there and use that whole area. It's a beautiful area now.
Well, the trail's around the back side of it, so.
Yeah. Hey, to go along with that, there is anybody got any questions on that, by the way? There's just maintenance items, and I'm sure between Valerie and I, we can relay all that to Eric.
I forwarded them to him this afternoon.
Perfect. The solar stormwater, so there's a separate permit, by the way, just for solar, and they added a tiny amount of impervious surface. This is why, I mean, when the landfill was originally done, right, the stormwater permitting requirements didn't exist. Now, obviously any new project above a certain square footage requires a permit. So they were required to get a permit for this. And it's barely above the half-acre requirement. And they were forced to include the existing roadway coming in because they needed it for access. So it really just covers the existing roadway coming down the hill from the highway department, the ditches along the roadway, and they had to build an infiltration gallery at the bottom, which you can see in these bottom pictures right here. In the shadow of that handsome guy taking the picture right there too.
Can see that shadow.
Yeah. And you can see that over on the left-hand side, you can see the forebay and the infiltration gallery, right? So all of that stormwater, they've got everything ditched today. So it comes down the roadway, goes to the bottom and goes into the small area. And it's all built for infiltration. It looks great. The only thing I suggested was mowing, and you can see, in the foreground, everything probably just needs a once a year mowing. And they'd be in great shape. So, nothing substantial at all on that one either. Any questions on the landfill?
Nope.
No.
All right, let's get
Just
on.
had a
I know it's
review
Jill's
of the
favorite.
wastewater system inspection report.
Yes, sir. That's the very next one. This is Jill's favorite one. And I probably mention this each year we meet. So Cyrus and I go out and we spend the majority of the day going through the entire wastewater system. So we start at the collection end. And as you folks probably realize, I mean, it starts up in the Shaw's parking lot. All of the restaurants that are along that block over toward North Street come down through a series of collection manholes, and it flows down across what you would call South Street, I guess, down to the wastewater system, and also everything on the south side of South Street, those 2 blocks that are in there. There's a whole separate wastewater collection. It's like a Y, right? A Y shape. There's a whole bunch of manholes all along there that collect all the wastewater from all the different buildings along there. Everything comes down to your wastewater system down below, which is obviously down in the field. And I think, Valerie, we have some pictures at the end of that one too.
Yep. I was trying to see if there was a good site plan to show, but there isn't. It's kind of.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
No problem, no
Once
problem.
again, I've got it on my other computer here and I took a whole bunch of pictures, but probably didn't include all of them in here, so. Again, yeah, there's kind of a overall. Again, it really, the whole area in the last 3 years in general has come along pretty good. You can see in the foreground here, there's some trees that have come down. On the right-hand picture, keep going over to your right, you see Cyrus. Yeah, see on your left, we had a pretty big tree that came down in there. It's blocking the access road. Most of those are all like, they're really softwood, they're box alder trees. They're
Yeah,
not.
that's already been taken care of because we
Nice.
had to get some trucks in there.
Yep. And just generally keeping the trees at bay. I mean, they tend to grow in on this area pretty fast. We go right through the entire system, by the way. So you have it's almost a conventional septic system here, like you'd see in it's much larger, of course, but almost like what you would see in every one of your residential homes, probably. I mean, every home in Bristol, pretty much, with the exception of very few that are on this particular system, have their own septic system.
See that yummy box on the bottom right corner?
Yeah.
That's tomorrow's menu.
Yeah. So really it flows from the collection system, which is just, it's a larger, it's a network of, manholes and pipes that collects all of the wastewater from how many people do you have now, Jill? 34 different buildings in the village. They flow down to a septic tank, right? From the septic tank, it goes out to a splitter box and then out to your fields. This was designed for a hydraulic capacity of about 20,000 gallons a day. You folks today, based on flows from your water meters, you're using a little over 8,000 gallons a day for those 34 properties. So that's a pretty good, yeah, you can't buy it, but that's a pretty good estimate. So here's where we run into challenges, right? This system was designed back when only hydraulic capacity was considered in the design, okay? Today, that's not the case. In subsequent permit renewals, the state also added some other criteria. Yeah, there you go. Here's a good overall overview of the system. Okay, if you can see up to the top right-hand, there you go. Yep, top right-hand side. You can see here some manholes up above. Those 2 round black things flowing right down into your septic tank, which is that big square thing. Yep, right there. And from there, it goes out to the splitter box, which if you follow down, keep going, right, go back, right there. You want to buy it. But anyway, right there is what we call a splitter box, okay? So septic tank settles out all your solids, right? That's the idea. It takes out all your solids and then the liquids continue to flow out to like a distribution box. We call it a splitter box, which is really just where it divides the flow to go out to all of these. You've got 8 different fields out here, right?
So Steve, the splitter box diverts it to the distribution boxes or boxes?
Splitter box and a distribution box, in this case, are basically the same thing.
One and the same, okay.
So in a standard like household septic design, you'd call it a distribution box, right?
Okay.
Same thing. Think of that as a glorified distribution box. Its job is simply to distribute the liquid to each one of these fields in equal amounts, okay?
Yep.
The piece that you're missing in the middle is it goes from the splitter box to dosing siphon chambers, which are all of those, see those white rectangles that you see to the left and right with the
Yeah.
diagonals going to the stripy fields?
1
Those
through
are
7 or 1 through 9 or whatever the hell it
One-
is.
1 through 8, you have
8, yeah.
dosing siphon chambers. They're tanks. They're concrete tanks with basically giant toilet flushers inside of them.
Okay.
Right. Jill's jumping ahead here, but yes, I mean, the goal is to make sure that we get equal amounts of liquid to each field, right? So that'll come out of that's the job of the splitter box. Its job is to make sure that each one of those dosing tanks that Jill's talking about gets the same amount of liquid. That liquid, so you've got 8 different fields and we rotate those fields once a year. So for this year, 4 of those fields will be on and 4 of them will be resting. Next year, when we come in and do this again, we'll reverse it. And the other 4 that were resting for a year, those will be on for the following year and the other 4 will rest. It's a pretty simple system. The downside of this kind of system is that they're not really designed for what I would call commercial or industrial waste, right? They're really designed more for like residential household waste. And what the state, where I was going with the conversation is what the state imposed upon you in terms of permit regulations after your original permit was done in subsequent permit renewals, they added to that some criteria for total suspended solids, as well as BOD, which is biological oxygen demand, which is really a measure of bacteria. If it's a way to measure bacteria, it's a pretty simple process to do, but it's a way for them to keep track of how much bacteria may be going out to your field. And that's really what you don't want, right? A lot of the higher, like in residential wastewater, you won't have very high BOD. It's not an issue. Where you get into high BOD is when you have commercial industrial applications where you've got a lot of, like, for instance, in your case, restaurants with food waste, right? That's a huge issue with BOD. What the state did is said, okay, you can only have so many pounds of BOD going out to your wastewater distribution field on an annual basis. So Jill goes out and she samples twice a year. She sends that off to a lab and the lab will send back a report that'll tell her exactly how much BOD was in each sample. The state came up with some criteria, and it's a pretty simple calculation that they put in your permit. It says this is how they want you to calculate how much BOD is going out to each one of these fields on an annual basis. We've been riding that limit for the last 3 years. We were right on the edge of the permit. We've been talking about this, and one of the reasons that we had been just underneath the permit requirements in terms of total BOD is that they force us to average 3 years of data, right? So it's 3 years of flow, 3 years of BOD, run it through a calculation. The 3 years of flow, we got to include the down couple of years through COVID, right? You didn't have a lot of flow from your restaurants. You didn't have a lot of flow from a lot of other businesses along there, which kept the overall total pounds of BOD calculation going out to these fields underneath what your permit limit was. We've been talking about this for a while because we knew that those numbers would be creeping up as businesses got to a point where they were once again growing and you had more tourism and you had, and that's exactly what's happening. I mean, your wastewater flows on an annual basis went up about, I think it was around 400 gallons a day between 2022 and 2023. So you're seeing those numbers increasing, which is great. That means businesses are doing well. The downside of that is, we've got a conventional septic system that's really not designed to handle some of the commercial waste that are going into it. So, this is the first year when we average all of that data that you've now exceeded what your permit requirements are, just barely. But that's going to continue to grow. And what that means for you folks is, the state's not going to allow you to have any wastewater in the system, right? You've got plenty of hydraulic capacity. That's the sad part of this. But because we've exceeded the limits that they allow for BOD, they're not going to allow you to increase your wastewater capacity or flows to the system, right? Which is unfortunate. You want to grow your downtown, you want to grow your businesses. You got folks that are going to move in and say, hey, we've got 1,000 gallons a day flow for business XYZ, or we want to expand our existing business. You don't have the wastewater capacity to do that right now. That's why we've been hammering so hard on solutions to reduce the fat oils and greases, right? And Jill's going to talk about fog and that's what she's talking about, and how to reduce BOD. And in my world, there's two ways to do it. You either eliminate it at the customer end before it gets into the system, or you as a municipality deal with it on the opposite end as it enters the system. I call it pretreatment. The downside of the pretreatment is you've got to treat 100% of the waste. Think about it this way. You've got 8,200 gallons a day coming on average coming into the system. Okay. If you treat it on your end, you've got to treat all 8,200 gallons. If you treat it on the customer end, and let's just say this was 3 of your customers that were contributing to the high BOD levels, and that's probably what we're talking about. It's probably a handful of folks. You'd only have to deal with the wastewater coming from each one of those individual businesses. So let's just say, for conversation, it's 300 gallons a day at each individual business. That's a whole different scale and magnitude of treatment. It's going to cost you, in my humble opinion, many times to deal with this on the municipal end as it is on the generator end, right? The customer end. Jill, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so we talked about this last year. You guys authorized us to get a composite sampler, which we did. We then, through the months of July, August, September, October, and November, got a bit involved in the Pine Street project. So it's now 2024. Pine Street project has eaten a bit of the spring to get everything marked out and whatnot. And we're cranking away on the service line inventory. And so now we're about to go into June. June and September are the 2 months that we do sampling at the splitter box, which is where our BOD and TSS and fog, nitrate, E. coli numbers, etc. come from. So we've thought of how we want to try to collect some of this wastewater to get some composite samples, because it's a little bit tricky. There's no stilling of wastewater coming through the collection system. It's always moving. That's how it doesn't back up. So I think we've invented a way to sandbag inside of a trough, inside of a wastewater manhole at a particular location where we know which businesses come to the manhole, and take a composite sample as we pool in the trough of the manhole to be able to get the composite to actually pull out of a bowl of water without backing up the sewer system, and while allowing it to run for a 24-hour composite, so we can kind of see what is the concentration of BOD and TSS and fog from this particular location over a 24-hour period. So we've got a game plan. We just have to get someone down in a manhole to bag it and throw the composite sampler in and collect some samples, and basically do some calculations of what were the flows during that particular month of sewer read, and take our milligrams per liter and use our pounds formula to figure out how many pounds of BOD and TSS. I will tell you, in looking at the more restrictive ordinances for BOD and TSS in some of the larger communities, there is a very specific target of the maximum BOD and TSS that are allowed to actually deposit their sewer in the public wastewater systems. So I see us moving towards, once we figure out what the levels are and what our system can handle, we can kind of actually calculate it backwards. If we're supposed to have 20,000 gallons a day, and right now the BOD and TSS are driving us over, we can calculate it backwards and figure out, okay, if we wanted 20,000 gallons a day, what's the maximum concentration of BOD and TSS we could have to use our maximum hydraulic capacity, and set our permitting that way. It's kind of my thought process, so that we could actually use the capacity of the wastewater system. I will also say that, generally speaking, with wastewater systems and water systems, once you start hitting 80% usage, that's when the state starts to clench down on you anyways, as far as no additional connections. So we are, biologically we're there, hydraulically we're not there, and we have the right equipment now. We're coming into budgeting season again. We still have the month of June, which is when we're doing our sampling anyways, so it'd be kind of cool, because I'm a wastewater person, I think this is cool, to take those splitter box samples for the system and also get composite samples from manholes all within the same relative period of time. so that they're somewhat reflective of each other. So you're seeing that, okay, everything is coming through to the main system from all of the collection versus, you know, what's coming through this manhole that attaches these 6 buildings, what's coming through this manhole over here that attaches these 5 buildings. We suspect that it is particular types of businesses that have more of like a restaurant, fried food / fats, oils, and grease, and less so connections that are very much dry businesses that don't have any kind of cooking going on. BOD and TSS and regular non restaurant type of wastewater. I run other wastewater facilities, 2 others, and my BOD and TSS is like 10. Yours is like 300 to 600. Just as a by the way. So like the level of treatment that I can provide at a full wastewater facility, A, is higher. I have a lot more biological process, but B, I have almost all residential connections. In one facility, I have no commercial connections at all. And in the other, I have maybe 4 restaurants and 160 residential connections. So it's
Jill, on the image that's on the screen right now, does that represent an example of where the manholes are? Those black dots?
If you can zoom in a little bit, like that's, I think that's Main Street, but I could be wrong.
It is.
It is Main Street. It's the south side.
Yep.
Okay, yes, the manholes are behind it. You see them? They're the dark black circles.
Yep.
Yeah, just wanted to give a sense for folks of where they're located and how many there are.
See how there's ties of the service lines coming into the manholes?
Mm-hmm.
So because we do a monthly read on the 12th of the month, that gives us kind of like their water flow. Water comes in, sewer comes out. That gives us that. And we just have to kind of look at which service lines are coming in and kind of get a sense of, okay, what is the combined BOD and TSS in this manhole coming from? These businesses. What is the combined coming from? These businesses. I, in my head, have probably 6 manholes based on what's flowing to them that I'd like to focus on first because it's not cheap to do sampling. As far as like the laboratory costs, we already told you guys we weren't going to charge you for our time. Would just include it in our services because we want to solve the problem as much as you guys do, but we have to understand where it's coming from.
Jill, how long is the testing period for?
Is
it just 24 hours? Is it less? Or once you build your dam or whatever to be able to get that data, and if it's a short amount of time, does that get you enough information to be able to know what's going through the system?
So my inclination is to do what's called a 24-hour composite sample, which is the maximum amount of time that you would do a BOD or TSS. They will take anything from 12 hours. Well, actually, they'll take anything from 8 hours to 24 for a facility with a direct discharge permit.
Jill, why don't you explain what a composite sample is versus a grab?
Oh, okay. So a grab sample is actually what we take at our splitter box. So we literally take a jar with it on a stick, scoop it down into the splitter box and dump the water into the bottles. And it's not water, it's gross wastewater. So into the bottle. So by the time I leave the splitter box, and I also take samples at the monitoring wells, we're required to take a bunch of like 3 different samples at each of the 3 monitoring wells. So the splitter box gets probably 8 different bottles testing for BOD, TSS, fats, oils, and grease, E. coli, nitrate. There might be one other one that I'm forgetting, but
pH.
Oh, pH we do. We just do the pH with a pH monitor. The lab doesn't check the pH for us. We report the pH and we report the temperature of the samples, both for the samples that we're taking at the splitter box and the samples that we're taking at each of the monitoring wells. So that's—
Are you in biohazard gear?
What's that?
I said, are you in biohazard gear?
It's always
Make
in the
Cyrus
hot
do that.
months. It's in June and September.
Yeah, that's my job.
Yeah, so we do wear gloves. If the gloves become ripped, we always replace them. It is wastewater and there is lots of pathogens in wastewater. So we do always wear it, and we don't laugh hard while we're collecting because it can splash in your mouth. This is a real thing.
So grab sample is just a grab sample.
Yep. Anyway, The difference, I did it once touring a wastewater plant. It was bad. Okay, so, a
So the
composite sample is different. So with a composite sample, you're taking an exact amount, like 10 milliliters, for instance, every 15 minutes over a duration. So it's taken an equal amount, putting it in the little jug, equal amount, putting it in the little jug. So the way that I usually set them up is a certain number of milliliters every 15 minutes for 24 hours. And then you know you've got like an entire day's worth of sample and you have enough to fill all your jars because they're pretty large.
Right. And I think that's really particularly good when you're dealing with restaurants and folks that are operating certain times a day and they may have different wastes coming out certain times a day, or breweries or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
It's a really good way to get a good average.
Yeah. So
I mean, one thing you want to be aware of is when restaurants are closed.
Right.
So you want to make sure you hit it on a day.
There isn't one open on Monday.
Right, when at least
Monday.
the manhole that you're looking at that's connected to whatever restaurant, they're open on that day. And I guess Shaw's too, is Shaw's gonna be producing less perhaps on a Sunday versus a Friday or something like that?
I do my groceries on Sundays.
Right.
What was that, Jill?
I said I do my groceries on Sundays, but yeah.
Right.
We
But in
would
terms of
definitely-
what they might produce.
Right, like-
I mean,
Yeah.
I think Shaw's is probably pretty consistent 7 days, but definitely restaurants on a day. So yeah, making sure that we know their hours.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Cupboards is closed on Sundays and Mondays. So I know we would not, also, we don't do sampling on Fridays. Yes, and most of the restaurants have grease traps, but by sampling at the manhole just after the grease trap, we'll be able to understand whether or not the grease trap is removing the fog or if it's not. And then there's a second element. The second element is the next time that Clark Wrights comes to empty out the presumed grease traps that are labeled as grease traps on the drawing and that are presumably grease traps from the design, is to actually do a visual inspection and see if they actually have a baffle on the top or some type of pipe coming down, or if they're actually septic tanks and the baffle comes up from the bottom and they're letting all the grease out and they're trapping the solids, which by the way aren't there because that's like the kitchen drains and not the toilets.
So Jill, today,
really wants to be part of this.
Jill, today, can you kind of expand on which businesses have existing grease traps, exterior
Yeah.
grease traps?
Yep, so it's Covers,
Yep.
Snaps, Mountain, South Mountain, and which one am I forgetting?
Walkies.
Well, no, he has an interior that he totally takes.
Okay.
He's got a very regular schedule with Clark Wrights. And he, every time I walk in, is like, do you want to see the papers? I'm like, yeah, let's check them out. So he totally does his. He has Clark Wrights do his. He stays on top of it. I'm still going to do the manhole behind the building. Just
So
to
we've got
see
South Mountain, Snaps, Mini Factory, and Covers, is that right?
mini
Mini
factory. I was
factory.
forgetting. Yes.
Okay.
Yep, those are the 4 exterior. There are many other interior grease traps, and I am suspect there is not a grease trap at one of the buildings that has probably a large amount of grease, fats, oils, and greases.
And
So,
I think what Jill, expand on why you want to look at those.
okay, so in typical wastewater, your solids settle, right? So everything comes into the manholes and it flows into your septic tank, and you only have a septic tank. So the only spot for you to have treatment is in your septic tank. So the solids are going to go down, the liquids are going to come up, and the liquids are what goes to the splitter box and then spreads out to all your leach fields through your dosage. A fat, an oil, and a grease, they float. So in a traditional septic tank like I have at my house, because I live in the country, my septic tank has a baffle that comes up from the bottom like this. So everything that comes from the house flows by gravity, comes into the septic tank, all the solids settle down, the liquids go over like this, and even at my house, they do go to a splitter box of sorts and head out to the leach fields. Grease goes over. So if these are not actually grease traps, if they don't have a baffle coming down or a pipe that hooks like this to say only the water from here can come in, the fat needs to stay up here, then we have a problem.
Right. We end up
Because
with all
it's-
down in the
Yeah,
septic
it's
tank.
basically like, fat, come on down.
And that seems to be what's happening today based on our inspections, right? Last year, there was a ton of, and we had like, Cyrus, correct me, he's probably in the background. I think we had like 2 feet or more of just solid grease on the top of the septic tank last year. We had to break through it.
Yes.
Quite a bit of crust. It was a little bit less this year, and Jill reminded me today that they had pumped that twice, I think, in the past year, Jill, and maybe that's the reason that the crust was down a bit. But am I wrong about that, Jill?
I
Pumping
wasn't
twice?
there. It was Cyrus that was there.
Okay, I
I
think anyway,
haven't played in the septic tanks.
they meant, no, I was just saying, I think you mentioned to me I got pumped twice over the past year, and that may be the reason we had a little less grease in there.
Yes, yes,
we
and
had.
honestly, we're pumping tomorrow so that we can fix the structure, and also because the scum and sludge levels in the septic tank on what we call cell 1, which is the left side, are pretty significant and could possibly travel into the leach fields, which we don't want. So we've got that scheduled to be done again tomorrow. That's like 20,000 gallons, and then we'll schedule after the new fiscal year to have septic tank cell 2, which is the right side pump, just to get all the solids and the floating scums and stuff out of there.
Right. And that's one of the reasons, one of the primary reasons that Jill and I believe that the commercial businesses are really what's contributing to your, to your issues with BOD, because in a conventional septic system, you're not gonna, you probably all looked in yours at one point or another and they came to pump it. You're not gonna see, a foot of fat oils and greases on the top of a residential septic system. It doesn't exist. These are all coming from commercial businesses for the most, not always, not always, but
Yeah, I mean, if a household like pours all their grease down the drain and doesn't
that's
know
different.
better, I mean, it's possible. Or if they like frying a lot, it's possible.
Right.
But
Not likely. So I think the thing we really wanted to cover tonight was there are some annual maintenance things that need to go on. Jill and Cyrus, I think, are on top of most of those. There's a couple things that need rebuilding. The system's old enough now where it's kind of like your house. It needs some maintenance every year, but they're not hugely significant. I think the thing that's significant to you folks and what you need to see coming down the line is how are we going to deal with BOD, that we really need to lower it. So we either need to make some decisions about being dealt with on the customer end, or it's going to be dealt on the municipal end, with the assumption that you folks want to continue to expand your downtown, right? And allow additional opportunities for businesses to grow and expand and have new ones come in. Like I said, the hydraulic capacity is there. We just need to deal really at this point with BOD. And I think the first step, and what I've suggested in here as a first step, and Jill and I have talked a lot about, and I think Jill agrees with me, is for you folks to determine who the real contributors are in terms of the BOD before you move toward how do we solve the problem and what's the best way to solve the problem. Because I think it'll allow you to say, okay, this is, 2 different customers that we need to work with, or it's 5, or, it might be 20. I don't think it is. I think you've got a small handful of folks, but you're going to know that after this data, or you should know after she gets this data. And it'll give you a good handle on how do you change your ordinance, how do you address it through an ordinance, if that's the way you want to go, and have it dealt with on the customer end, which is what most municipalities do, by the way. Most, require, as Jill said, low discharge limits for a lot of these types of materials that are coming in. They don't go ahead and say, hey, we're going to spend $1 million on addressing this through our municipal wastewater system. We're going to ask you folks on the other end who are generating this to deal with it on your end.
Okay. When might we see that data?
Yeah.
probably by the end of June, because I intend to do the sampling in June, as I'm also doing the sampling for the regular system in June, so that they're relative to each other. So we can kind of see if we're getting BODs and TSSs in the 300 to 600 range, and a certain manhole shows 900, we can aim that way, where versus another shows 20. I'm not even going to pay attention to the 20. I'm going to over to where the 900 is coming from and start to do more in-person visits with the businesses to see where the levels of grease control are.
So Steve, after that report, you'll be able to give the board, you and Joe, some direction, you know, July, August, September, that, okay, you're narrowing it down to a handful, 5 maybe businesses that
I think we've already done that.
play ball with. We're gonna say, okay, people,
Yeah.
you 5.
And
we're gonna
Joel,
have
this
to
could,
come into
yeah.
Jesus talk with them and say, you've got to put some equipment in.
Well, and I think that's where your ordinance comes into play too, right? I mean, you folks have got to have some teeth in your ordinance that says, okay, you know, we for the public good, and this is really about public good. I mean, your goals as a community, everything that I've heard from you is we want this the ability to expand the system, right? To be able or have our businesses grow when they come to us and say, hey, we want to add 20 more seats in our restaurant, or we want to add a new business over here 2 doors down. We don't have the wastewater capacity today to do that. And I there could be some very simple solutions to this. And one of the reasons and things that Jill suggested, which I think is a great idea, is let's look at the existing grease traps that are there today. If we determine that that some of the restaurants are the issue, and determine whether or not these existing grease traps are actually even functioning as grease traps. If they're not, there could be some really simple solutions to that to get them to function correctly that would significantly reduce BOD on the other end. So there may be some simple solutions that are really cost effective here.
Right, and if anyone is doing any kind of brewery waste is like 6,000. So that would destroy the system. I've heard mixed feedback that there are no longer any breweries connected to the system. I don't happen to go to the Bobcat often enough to know if there's still any brewing occurring there. So that would be a very, very big one. You know, and then my other suspect is I've never seen a grease trap at Shaw's. So I've seen grease traps in all other locations. Whether or not they're being maintained is also an issue, and they've been sent letters about sending us maintenance on those grease traps, meaning showing us how often they're being pumped. So a lot of
Here
follow-up.
again, I'm sorry, here again, the big supermarket is owned by Paulo's, and I mean, he's the landlord.
Right.
That's the people we gotta talk with, say, we need to see your grease trap. Oh,
Depends on what
Well,
the
Jill
lease,
and I-
it depends on what the lease agreement says.
Jill and I chatted about making an arrangement to meet with the manager at Shaw's and ask for some information and to see what they do.
Right, but this is the sort of the data that we need to be able to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I have to duck out and take him.
Sure, no, understand. There's Jessica, so just real quick, anything in the back that you wanna bring to our attention?
Nope, just look at the minutes, yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Jill and Steve.
Nice talking crap with you.
Nice talking.
Nice.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
On point.
Yeah.
Have you been thinking about that all this time?
Okay, update on the preparation for the June 10th annual Water Department and Sewer Department annual budget meeting.
As I mentioned in my notes, this was just a placeholder. I wasn't sure how far we would have gotten by tonight's meeting. Jill covered a lot of the things that were already that are in play right now, and including the meeting that we had planned to have with Justin about some of the water system cash flow, the budget numbers and that kind of thing. So we're hoping to be able to reschedule that meeting. It was supposed to be today. We hope to reschedule that sometime later this week. We are still working on the edits to the ordinance. It's going a little bit more slowly than hoped, but hopefully we will be able to, Jill and Kevin and I and Steve will be able to get together, hopefully by the end of this week, to kind of go through our thoughts on edits to the ordinance, and that would help in us be more prepared for next Monday night.
Or 2 Monday nights.
No, next Monday night, the third.
No, next one.
Special meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but not for this June annual water meeting.
Right, this is the pre-June annual water meeting.
Or we just meet every Monday night.
Yeah.
It's just out of curiosity, has Justin
So,
been involved in any of the water ordinance stuff Because
The
he does
ordinance-
he's probably doing the billing or eventually will do.
The ordinance language specifically, no, not yet. He's plenty of other things occupying his priorities. So the policy side, no, not yet. We're working with him more on the number side.
But you're looking at that thing with the ERUs. is that
Yep,
what-
yeah,
Okay.
that's a big focus
Okay.
with us. Yeah, so that's all I have on that.
Okay, let's do number 8 here. Continue review of update or visit revolving loan fund policy guidelines and application materials. Michelle, you want to get to
Quick.
45 minutes?
Huh?
It says 45 minutes plus. the
45,
money.
well, God, I
You
hope
only
not.
get
So
45 seconds.
there are like 4 things. In the old, we had the 0.5% fee, which I think I told you guys last time that I talked to the bank, they never collected, it's never been collected. My question was, is it in or out? Do we charge them as an administrative fee for the town for the administrative time and having to deal with payments, all that stuff for the treasurer, that comes back in? So I need an answer to that. The flat fee, the application fee, we used to do it on a percentage. We kind of talked about a flat fee, came up with a number, and we said, well, we'll think about that. So do we want it 125? Do we want it higher? The other question that came up was 10-year balloon. Do we want to have a 5-year balloon with it? I'm sorry, 5-year balloon amortized over 10 years, or just do a 10-year loan amortized over 10 years? And the other thing is, the bank doesn't send out statements to these people. They're just expected to remember to pay. I think we need to come up with a system, and that may just be a procedure for Justin or our treasurer to make sure statements go out, because the bank doesn't send them.
Right. I think if we're gonna, I agree, we should send out a statement, your due, your loan is due, again, then we should have an administrative fee. Because that's gonna cost time and effort to do.
Okay, so is the 0.5 enough, too much? You tell me. I mean, it depends. Because that 0.5, that amount is gonna depend on how much the loan's gonna be.
According to the minutes from the last meeting, it was agreed to remove the reference to the 0.5% closing fee.
Yeah, I know we were gonna remove it as a fee, because we thought it was a bank fee. But then I said, then I asked about the administrative fee, or do we want to include that as an admin?
Or if that would be the application fee.
No, I think it's in addition to the application fee, because $125 application fee is not gonna cover. I mean, if we've got a 10-year loan and we're sending out statements every month,
That's 120 statements.
and if they don't pay, then it's up to the treasurer to say, didn't make your payment this year or this month or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking for input.
I'm not aware that other financial institutions have a fee structure that way. It's part of that upfront cost, and it's just part of the overhead cost of running a loan program.
Yeah, but theirs is a whole lot more than $125.
I mean, you get a payment book when you get a car, but you don't get a payment book when you do a mortgage.
Not anymore, you don't.
I got one.
You got a payment book?
Oh, yeah, from Bond Federal.
I don't-
You can get a payment book for anything anymore.
My wife
Me
gets
either.
she gets one for the truck and the camper.
I do, I mean, I get a statement from the bank for
Says
my
it's due. She pays it
mortgage.
online, but. So
I
it's
don't even
on
get
top.
that.
No, because it's automatically taken out of your
No,
account.
no, nothing's automatically taken out of my account, because it may not be money there.
So, I mean, those are the 4 things that I.
For the 5-year and the 10,
Mhm.
it seemed like we should just do the 10.
We've
Just-
never
just
had
the-
we've never had one paid off in 5 years, have we?
Yeah.
And if they didn't want it for 10 years, they could opt for 5 and pay it off in 5.
Well, we could just make it an option, say, how do you
5
wanna
or
do
10
it,
years,
5
yeah.
or 10? We can
Yeah.
give you 5 years, amortized over 10 with a balloon at the end of 5. Or
And
just
the
amortized over
current
10.
draft does allow that as an option, but it doesn't require it.
And I'd be willing,
I would say we'd offer a 5 and a 10-year note
Okay,
without the amortized over either 5 or over 10.
So skip the whole balloon concept
Yeah.
altogether,
Yeah, if I want to pay it off in 5 years' time.
just
I'll-
prepay it.
Yeah,
I'd like to see us charge maybe $5, $10 if they miss a payment. And we have to send them a reminder. And it's maybe $5 to send a reminder that, hey,
I don't know if there's a late fee in there, I can't remember now, top of my head.
I don't believe so. Well,
Instead of-
I could be wrong
like
about
you say,
that.
10 years, be 120 payments, you gotta send it every month. No, but if you miss one and we send you a reminder,
I'd have to pull them all
Did you get feedback from Justin on this?
up. And no, I didn't.
Well, his feedback was about the balloon.
The balloon payment.
And, I talked with him on Friday about it, or Thursday, and, it's not actually required in the documents, so he was comfortable with that. I'm looking to see the most recent revolving loan bank statement, which isn't very recent. And just to see. If late fees
The late
are-
charge of 5% may be assessed for any late payment of 10 days or more,
Maybe assessed.
maybe. And loans may be
So if
paid
you
at
have
any time.
a $200 payment, you owe $10 for the, if you're late.
Yeah, but that, again, that's part of, that's an administration thing that, you know, whoever our treasurer is gonna have to pay attention to that.
Well, how many loans do we have now?
9?
Yeah.
Gives me rough numbers, I don't need to know.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8. That was close.
So, you
I
know.
said half dozen. You were
If
closer,
he
but you were
fills out a
overseeing.
Spreadsheet that says they didn't come in, I mean, like I say, my little payment book for my Colorado. You pay it on the 15th, it says much, you pay it on the 25th, after the 25th, 10 days, it's this month.
Hmm.
It's like $10 more.
All right, which questions of yours have we answered?
Yeah.
The balloon.
I got the balloon,
Yeah,
make sure a statement goes out,
Yeah.
and I assume we're gonna have to do that. I get the impression the bank does not do that, or they told me they don't do that.
right.
I'm just gonna have to come up with like a checklist for our treasurers. This is the
Yeah.
process, so I'll need some help with that. But,
So
it's just
we
a
didn't-
0.5% admin fee or some percentage admin fee and the flat, and the application fee. Those are the two things that I just need answers for.
What does 0.5% is?
That's just-
Nothing.
Well, it depends on the size of the loan.
Is it per month or over the course of the loan or?
It's a one-time fee, right at the front. That was my understanding in reading.
Yeah.
It was a one-time fee right at the front. So if they take a five-year loan, you know, they're paying higher than if they take a 10-year loan. And if they borrow 100,000 versus 20,000, you know,
That was 0.5?
yeah, that's what it said.
0.5 is.
I don't have a lot of
5 cents on 100,
I don't have a lot of experience with
so it's
administrative
$5
fees for
on
loans,
1,000.
Yeah.
but
You have a
it
suggestion?
just seems,
It doesn't seem like,
Right.
it just seems kind of.
So would it be better to just do a higher flat fee?
That's my thinking. Because the administrative effort is roughly the same, no matter the amount
Just a
of
stroke of
loan.
how much you're gonna put
Okay,
down.
I mean, it's the same, we're
70,000.
all here just
100,000.
doing the job, it's not doing
Right.
extra
So what
stuff.
about, the fee, it's down as 125, what about making it 250? As a flat fee
Mhm.
for any application, regardless of the amount.
Which I suppose could be amortized over if they don't have, they want.
I mean, if
Or
they're
no,
gonna
they
allow
have to pay that up front.
They have to pay that up front. The minute they hand in the application, they have to pay that.
Okay.
The only thing it says it can roll
100%.
over into the loan is like
The
the
closing costs,
closing costs.
and that makes sense.
Mhm.
Maybe 250 is too much.
I don't think it's too much, but it depends. I guess it
no, I
depends on
don't,
the
I'm
loan.
just trying, it's 100, if you figure $1, by the time you figure your envelope and everything to send your statement, if you figure $1 statement, it's 120 if they make their payments
On time,
on time.
Right.
or if they make their payments every month
Yeah.
and you're not chasing.
I mean, it's not like we're trying to make money
No,
from the fee, just
No.
trying to cover the town's
Cover the
costs.
costs, so.
right. I mean, if they're late on their payment,
Unforeseeable complications of it perhaps, or.
I mean, if they're late with their payment, they get a
That I
late
think-
fee.
That I think is reasonable.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think if, most of them are 10-year loans, and most of them are $30,000 or
more.
$70,000, so I think you've got a $250 fee that you have to pay.
It's not
Yeah, it's part
the
of
end
it.
of the world.
I mean, think about like, doing our zoning and things like that, it's, so he has to be. a
You
mountain
waste that
goat.
now if you go out to eat.
I don't know where you to go to eat.
Now, we've also broadened the eligibility, the range of things that people can apply for, including disaster relief, disaster recovery. So presumably in those situations, there's hardship, or there could be hardship.
Okay.
Good.
And this is a fund of kind of last resort for folks that might not have access to other resources.
Or the committee decides it's okay. If it's not. That's what we did for Chris.
Yeah.
I mean, 8 businesses that are borrowing money. I think Justin's smart enough, put up a spreadsheet and said, this one's doing the first, this one's doing the third or fifth and 8, 10.
Oh, the
And
spreadsheet
the-
exists already, just needs to be
Right.
updated.
And you may be able to do it via email.
And just send you an email,
Instead
you're
of.
10 days
instead of
over.
paper.
your $125 a month payment for over 10 years
Or a revised invoice.
is
Here's your
now
payment now, here's your
$135
5%
this
late
month,
fee.
a $10 late fee
Mhm.
for this month.
Interesting. Email's a good
Okay.
suggestion.
I mean, everything's done that way.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean,
Not
Okay.
everything.
well,
It's getting that way though.
all my state permits, they send me an email. If I
Yeah.
don't respond, then they send me a fine via email.
Find me email? Is that
Yeah,
what you
fine
said?
me email,
Cheapers.
which fines me.
Can you pay?
Okay, do you need a motion on that, Michelle, or you're still working on it?
Nope. If you guys
You
are
have
okay with
4
me
to 5
making
minutes.
those changes, I'll do it and
Okay, bring them back to us.
no,
just
just
say that-
implement them. If you guys,
So is there gonna be a fee for late payment over 10 days?
that's the
already
5%, it's
there.
already in there.
Sorry.
It's
Oh,
already
we
in the
never
document.
charged it.
Probably not, because nobody ever sent statements.
I mean, we've had some, well, I haven't looked at it lately.
But I
This
will put
business hasn't
together kind of
Paid in a year and,
a checklist of, this is the process so that we can give it to Justin.
okay. Okay, consider,
So yes, I want a motion, so there's
okay.
no question.
Okay, consider a motion to have Michelle work, finish up those revolving loan some policies and guidelines is. who wants to- Bigger second? Okay, motion and second, all those in favor, any questions?
Right.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we got past that, questions. Okay,
Okay.
consider grant application authorization request from the Energy Committee to the Municipal Energy Reliance Program for $4,000 support energy efficiency public outreach.
As I noted in my report, that the proposal actually is it's from the Energy Committee, and they would like $2,000 to go to the Climate Economy Action Center to support their Navigator project in Bristol, and $2,000 to go into, towards the Energy Committee in a specific fund that they can tap into
And
beyond
this is
the,
no match,
No,
no match.
so moved.
second.
So what are we gonna, just a boilerplate question, what is they gonna get out of going to this Energy Committee? I mean,
I do not know.
Well, it kind of says public outreach, so my guess is they're trying to educate the public and help, because I know they do workshops and stuff.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and given that I think they only have $100, I think it's.
That's allocated to them.
Yeah, it's 300 for the Conservation Commission and it's 100 for the Energy Committee,
Right.
but at least
Okay.
this would give them some sort of.
We heard the motion.
Was it seconded?
Yeah, I did.
Oh,
Ian and
We all
I did.
motioned it,
Pick
and I'll
one.
second it.
Okay.
Any more questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Great.
Abstained? Okay. Consider acceptance of a quote from Sergeant's Welding and Crane Service for installation of removable rails on the universal fishing platform at Eagle Park.
And I sent some additional information, I posted the quote this afternoon, and I sent some additional information this afternoon, explaining the context that our efforts with Doc Doctors did not work out.
So,
And that we reached out to Randy Sargent based upon our experience with him, his availability, and asked for a quote, and it's within the project budget. And he has assured us that he would be able to do the project within our new timeline by September 30th.
So he's modifying the existing railings.
I was trying to read that.
Yeah, so what it is, the railings that are perpendicular to the river, that catch all of the stuff,
Mhm.
would be cut away and put on hinges in such a way that they can be levered closed at the entrance of the platform. And thereby opening that perpendicular area,
ends.
yeah. So the two ends, that they become basically a
Gateway.
to the entrance of a blocked gate to the entrance of the platform. And it would open up that channelway over
Does the front one stay on?
the side one that's
Towards the back.
parallel
Towards
would stay,
the
that would
water.
stay fixed. Cause would be the anchor that they get.
Yeah,
Fixed
what, what about the very front?
That,
The one on
river
this side by the
that one
riverside,
stay.
not by the
So here's the
land side.
platform, everybody. The river's coming down this way. So which ones are gonna be moved?
Let me
The
try.
two
The river
sides.
comes this way, these two sideways.
This one's staying?
That's my understanding, this one's staying.
Boy, it would seem like that would still catch if it's out there.
Yeah. Unless it is hinged so it can lay down. But I like that idea better than taking them off and storing them.
yeah, that it turned out that to remove them, they would be much heavier than we expected. I'm trying to track down the picture.
Does the hinging add complexity if they do break to then repair them? Given how many repairs we've done to that location so far. So removing,
The only thing I'm nervous about is if that south rail stays in place.
That was the one closest in the center of
In the river, yeah,
Like,
it's still
yeah,
gonna catch stuff.
anything large that came over the platform,
You're gonna hook on
swept
it,
down, yeah.
and it's gonna get hooked between the two, it might.
Between the two poles, the poles
Yeah.
you're talking about.
But then if you hinge it down, it
Won't
still
it-
could get stuff.
It could get caught, but it
Yeah.
should go over.
Yeah,
It won't take it out. It won't take,
Oh,
it could
I
take
won't
it out. If
guarantee
it's,
that.
I
if it's
know.
down, it could take that out.
But we can't,
We don't, there's
we can't
not,
design them where they just chunk in because they're too heavy, is that what?
yeah, what we need is like PVC posts with hydraulics, bring it down, bring it up.
That'd be cheap.
It's a nice aluminum,
Yeah, right.
can we do that? We just bang as we try to aluminum.
Here's the river.
Come on, can we think
flowing like
outside the
this.
box here?
I know, that's what I was-
Right, here, everybody, the river's, and it's sitting like this. Not quite that much, but here's the center of the river. So this one's gonna fold this way, and this one's gonna fold this way.
No, it'd fold in and cover the back.
So-
This is open.
Okay. They cover that.
This is an image, this isn't what they're proposing, but the concept, we get the concept that the hinge would be down here, it would be released at that end, and they would fold in this way.
But that one towards the river would stay.
That would stay as an anchor, and stuff would just flow through by it.
I'm
And
not
not
sure,
get-
it will-
not-
I'm
not
not
sure
sure it'll
it
flow by
Not
totally,
hung up as
but,
much. Let's see.
yeah.
And I don't know what, this is just a
So
sketch I came up
these
with.
two sides, that, they're gonna yeah, I see that, they're gonna overlap.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're bigger than that, than just meeting each other, they're gonna overlap.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah, no, that's fine,
It was just to get the idea across.
So, but that front piece stays.
Correct,
that's the thought.
I
yeah.
don't see where that gains us anything.
Well, it
Really?
gains us some, because it won't
What if
technically
those,
stop on the sides as much.
Valerie, what if these four, the two fold in? That one and that one, over. Nope, back up.
Back up this way?
Nope, the other way. I wanna see this one down here. This one would fold this way and that one would fold this way.
Yeah.
What if these were four separate ones, so they wouldn't be so heavy? I don't see that, if you're not taking that out.
No, not taking that out doesn't work, I don't believe. Because anything that comes down, it gets hooked on that front corner. That's where it gets hooked first, is that front corner.
Or if there was just throwing out ideas here, if there was a bar right here that locked this in, and then you unlock it, and these fold to here, and then it. Just
You're gonna
shooting
be
out some
heavy,
ideas.
heavy,
It
yeah.
is kind of heavy, you're right. Maybe a wheel on it or something, I don't know.
So the written description in Randy's proposal is the thing to follow. This was just something I was trying to illustrate. The engineer met with Randy out on the site and they came up with what's in his proposal. I was just trying to illustrate a concept.
I wanna know what happens to the front. I understand exactly what you did, but if that front rail stays up, it's not gonna solve anything.
I mean, the whole point of this though is that if we're gonna get a storm, somebody's gotta go up there.
Well,
Move it.
I think it gets taken down, and the
Like
idea
November,
was
the
it
end of
get,
November or something like
yeah,
that.
taken down at fall when the winter season starts and.
Do you wanna
Yeah, but all the
postpone
spring
this and-
stuff that's gonna be out, you know, when we have any, like if we have a wicked storm during the spring and summer,
Maybe
Those
one
are
in the
gonna
summer,
be-
yeah, we're
those are gonna be up.
But I think the thought is, all the snow melt and all that, all the debris in the river. Is
Between the ice and
the ice and the debris takes the railing out. I think the summer water will go right straight through there.
Hang on.
Well, there's not always just water.
No.
There's rocks and trees. and
Mother
branches
Nature's gonna
and
do what
stuff,
she
right.
wants.
Yeah, you don't mess with her. Oh, no, how many times have we fixed this dumb thing?
Well,
So do you want more information before making a decision? We can postpone this and ask.
I think we need to,
can we get the
Revisit this.
information and just vote on it real quick at next meeting?
That's my question.
Yeah.
That works for me.
Okay.
I think the hinging, I think it's far too complicated. And like you said, it doesn't solve.
If the
that
front
one
doesn't come
long-
out, yeah.
Anything at piece of wood that came, it would just smash and be caught.
And then
on
there's
this
nothing there to
and then
hold it.
drag.
And
Yeah,
then
and
it's
then it
gonna-
could flip one way or the other. Yeah. I think the only way to accomplish what we want to do is to have them pulled out. We have to figure out a way so they can be pulled and removed.
I mean, I don't know, the hinging them this way might work, those two ends one, it's the
Mhm.
front piece.
That's
that
why I
they're-
thought,
they're
could
gonna have a
we-
problem.
could we put brackets on the side bigger? And take those, instead of 16 feet.
I can't imagine if the
20
engineers
feet.
met up there that they left that front there. They must,
I don't know.
there must be something we're missing.
Who was the
Maybe-
engineer, Roy Schiff?
Roy Schiff, yeah.
I guess he might be the one to ask.
Either
Yeah.
Roy
Yeah.
or Randy, yeah.
Yeah, so I would, invite them to the next meeting or,
Or just email and ask the question.
Maybe just meet them on site.
Yeah.
Say, these are our concerns, what do you think?
Well, do we know who proposed the hinging? Was that Roy or was that Randy?
I'm not
Or
exactly
dock
sure
knockers.
how that got,
Okay,
generated.
okay. I mean,
Yeah, I don't-
Randy wrote the description, so it seems
Right.
perhaps he
It was,
came up with
the
that
concept was
concept.
given to him to
Okay.
noodle
I guess
on.
I don't mind that piece, I mean, but if we have some terrible storm, even at that down here, anything that comes in, that comes around, may get caught in that
Yeah, it
anyway.
may, yeah.
But, yeah, that end one, I mean, if you have a tree come down there, it's gonna hit it, it's probably gonna force it one way or the other. It may not necessarily
Right.
stay there, but it's gonna force it,
Or it could flatten it,
flatten it. Right,
because there's no support there. Once you take those
Right.
ends out, there's no
Right.
support.
true.
So is it just steel? There's steel?
Yeah, I think it's galvanized.
Galvanized,
Yeah,
Okay.
galvanized, yeah.
Is there any way of maybe folding it down? Can you,
yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about, but if you fold it,
that Peter's talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, you could
I think
hinge the
they're,
wall down.
well, I think the reason they wanted them fold around is so nobody could go out there.
Right, right.
Well, I think, yeah, the two on the side's bigger, fold in first and the one out.
Yeah, we had
down,
already
lay
kind
down.
of, said that, but we also said putting it down may even, they may come in and take it out. But I don't know, we just need to ask the question, I guess.
Dad built a damn hell.
Okay, postpone.
All right.
Fix it.
Consider lister's request for a 30-day extension for Farley Town of Bristol Grand List. Pleasure, people.
Why,
They haven't got quite all their, Mark said they haven't got a few things tied up. This is standard.
And
okay.
It's supposed to be done by the June,
June 1st,
yeah, June 1st.
So,
second.
Motion is second. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same.
That's for Joel's signature.
Okay.
Thank you.
Review and approval of February 12th, 26th of February, May 1st, and May 13th, 2024 meeting minutes.
So the May 1st and the May 13th are complete.
Okay, May 1st. I reviewed, and I'm okay, I didn't get a chance. I'll make a motion to approve those. I didn't get a chance to look at the May, the 13th,
Second.
Okay, so you want to approve which ones?
May 1st.
May 1st, no 12th or 26th of February?
We didn't have those, not yet. And May 13th, she sent out and I didn't have a chance to look at those.
Okay, there's a motion to accept May 1st meeting minutes. So, Any, was there a second? Me and second.
Yeah, second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Authorized accounts payable warrants and any liquor or tobacco. Liquor, what was the warrant, Peter, speaker 78?
Okay, it was, the new one was 92, 249, 84. Sharon sent that today.
Okay. And any liquor, I didn't see any liquor licenses, right?
No, I didn't
Okay.
see any there.
All right. Make a motion to accept.
No, we don't.
Approval, we don't have to. I don't know why I got approval. Approval works, okay.
You sign them there.
Yeah. Select board roundtable. Michelle?
Are we there already? I was waiting for the other business. Sorry. I think of it.
What about your lights, your bridge lights? There's one flashing.
You know, I actually was gonna email them the other day and say, okay, what's the deal? You told us it's now spring, you're gonna do something, so I got that on my head to do.
One's just Morse code almost.
Yeah, but there are some lights just totally out.
And I think that we could relook at the guard, the railing, and I almost pulled out, but I got after the white line, I could see them, but I pulled them back a little bit, and, you know, we just only had 2 rails instead of 3, you could look right over top of that.
They won't do it, we already asked them that.
We can do it.
Oh, sorry, somebody hit it.
No, I think our solution for that is when the road is repaved, we're gonna move our stop over to the right a little bit.
Yeah.
Which will give it a little bit more.
Okay. Alrighty, Ian, anything?
Okay, thanks.
Speaker?
Good.
I just, got a few things on the back of the list, I didn't see it, we had that gentleman come in, and I guess it was March or early April. We should probably put it on the list, we thought we would, not much we can do right now, but remember we were gonna do a big animals policy or something, we were gonna, remember the guy that came in about the
horses.
horses?
Well, he brought it to the select board's attention, and I
And
don't
I
know the
just said
select board
that's a
ever
more of a-
agreed to actually.
No, we didn't really agree, but there is a state thing, and I remember telling him.
Dennis
that-
Cisco.
Dennis Cisco, yeah, brought that in, so, yeah, we saw Alan Clark fixing the fountain again today, I guess it needed a new pump or something the other day. Thank you, Alan. He does a great job. And where are we with the letter to the governor?
I haven't had time. And also, and this is something we'll be able to talk about next Monday. With the current round of activity and this next round of loan applications, the staff at the drinking water program have actually reached out. In other words, communications have improved. They appear to be more fully staffed, and they're reaching out to us and laying a path for us to find out
Swallow the
information,
hook and get hooked again?
to find out all the information ahead of time. That they've reached out to do this with us for these next stages of.
Did you tell them
financing.
we want their formulas?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So this was all just this past week, so things appear to be moving in that direction, but I haven't had a chance to change the letter.
And I just saw it in the front porch, or maybe Meredith's email, the rec department was closed on Friday.
Mhm. And Monday,
Well, Monday's a holiday.
right?
Is that, I'm just asking, is that her wants to do it, or we didn't grant that? I don't usually have to ask. or did they work 4 10-hour days that week, or? I'm just going back from the highway department, they work 4 10s and, Are they all
They're not
married?
always closed on Fridays.
no, I know that,
No, no, so
I know
it's an
they're not.
unusual, they don't typically need select board approval for those kinds of things.
Okay. Good,
It's an administrative.
okay, so you,
It wasn't, they didn't get holiday pay for it. If they got paid, they had to take it out of
Right,
vacation.
They've
vacation
been working a lot of extra weekend time.
or comp time.
okay, just asking. Okay, town administrators report.
I don't have anything to add to my written report, other than to let you know that we received today, I think it was today, yes, this interesting binder of this collection of all of the documentation for the purchase of the Lathrop property, for the new and improved public works facility on Hewitt Road. So it's a very interesting collection of information. It's nice. I've never seen anything put together like that before, so.
Okay,
Who sent it?
probably Kevin. Brennan.
Kevin.
Yeah, his office.
Okay. Anything else? for the good
Nope,
of the
that's
order?
it for me.
Executive session,
Oh, wait a
citizens?
minute, I want to talk about the
There-
land use appraisal board.
Right, yeah, so under other business, I provided
Okay.
some other
Okay.
levels of information than usual, just to,
Okay, other business
Try that.
correspondence report.
well, there's the waterworks change of appraisal notice, there's some information about that. If you want to, if you're inclined to file a grievance, it has to be done by tomorrow. The town, we received word that the town will be needing to pay the current use tax penalty or whatever it's called for that Hewitt Road property. We don't know what the figure is yet. I don't.
But the
But
water,
that's been submitted, right? We actually submitted.
We haven't submitted that document yet, and if we don't, then they'll just automatically do it.
It's part of,
Oh, so maybe they did. Oh, okay. Good to
so
know.
I mean, I don't know if they submitted it. I would double check with Kevin to make sure that this was actually submitted.
It's dated April
Because that,
26th.
then that eventually comes back to our listers to come up with a
Right.
value,
Yeah,
so.
so the waterworks property in Lincolnville, that's still in the current use program.
that is,
Yeah.
Even though
yes,
they raised the rate, we still get the current use programs rate.
correct. And we don't know what, if any, impact will actually occur on the
Because
taxes.
everybody went.
Right, because there'll be lots of different recalibrations of
It
other
may,
people's
it may
tax
come out
bills.
to be about the same.
Yeah, it could end up being the same.
It should.
I mean,
I mean, well, their tax rate goes up, it'll be more, but
Right.
it may be worth a call, Valerie, to, isn't David Brin working on some stuff for us at the waterworks property? You know, the amount of acreage we had could he say, yeah, that's worth that, probably what they assessed it for?
Hmm.
And just, I mean, I was in town of Starksville today doing their hour camp, and they showed me a lot of sales, so I said, okay, yep, I saw the sales.
Would he know the answer to that question?
He may or may not.
Hmm.
He may know what forest land's going per acre.
Hmm.
I guess, to give us an
well,
idea.
that's $2,000 an acre. Which seems steep. Because it's not prime anything.
So if
Yeah,
the,
well, if you want to appeal, you have to do it by tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Thursday.
Well, the
Wednesday,
20
the 29th, you have to,
yeah,
by letter or email, you have to indicate you.
But I
want-
don't know what
the basis.
Yeah, you'd have to,
if everything went up,
well, you'd have to go up and see what the sales are and see what the values are. I mean, you'd have to compare apples to apples to the lister cards for any other property around that's similar. I mean, I don't know, how much property in Lincoln are you gonna get that's
similar,
like similar?
it's wet mountainside.
Right.
I don't, you know,
Who did their appraisals, do we know?
I don't know.
I don't know if that's an Emmerich or.
Oh, in Nemrick, yes,
Mhm.
that was in their notice.
About the only game in town. Right.
We didn't get the Better Roads funding, looked like, the feedback.
Right.
And it's because it's already, it says note all segments were already in the already meets compliance.
So we're not,
Because
gonna-
they're being washed away, but they're already there.
Yeah.
so we're not gonna do it on Moncton Road,
Uh,
right? What were we gonna grind Moncton Road, or no, that
That's
wasn't.
a separate.
That's a separate grant. Sorry.
Yeah, this was to support the Lincoln
Okay.
Riverbank.
Riverbank repair.
And I asked, just off the cuff, the last meeting was, do we want to have a road trip or not?
Oh, right, I forgot about that.
I think they're always nice, and this is Jessica's first year.
That's what I thought, so.
I mean,
Just give me a
last time we
date,
did
I
it,
can
did
get
we
the
do it
bus.
in June or July? We did in July.
Well, I
didn't
think
we?
you have done it in June and July. I think your June is
We've
going to
done
be
it
pretty
early,
bad.
we've done it when there's snow on the ground, we've done
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I haven't done it when there's snow on the ground.
Many years ago, in the pier.
So I think your June schedule's gonna be
Let's
pretty
work on
packed.
that. Let's figure out a date for that next, either.
And also
Monday
Eric
or-
will be away for the 2 weeks. in
Right.
June, So I think we would
Let's do
look
it
at
then.
July.
Let's do it then, we can come up with a list for him. to-
Right.
We're throwing you under the bus.
It's good that he shows us what, these are
Yeah.
the guys have been doing this and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's had some pretty decent road projects that have been completed, so.
Good.
Okay,
All right.
So Val, do you want me to check with Kevin about the current use?
Sure.
and then, anything other correspondence now?
Liz Sayre had sent a communication to select board members, and I don't know if there's any response. I had not responded. About the school budget.
Right.
So I don't know if.
Next Tuesday, week from today, 2 weeks.
I don't know if what she was asking for is still an open question, or if it's a done deal, or whatever she was looking for input on.
Okay. We don't have executive session, then I'd entertain motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I was waiting.
All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned.
Great, thank you.
Okay, boys and girls.
See you next
Thank
month.
you.
Good night, Jimmy.
Have fun.
Good night.
Bye.
If anybody's bored, we'll be playing with poop tomorrow.
And you have fun, Jill. We know how much you like playing and crap.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You enjoy it way too much.
Look down in the future and see what happens with all this DEI stuff.